and Chris Mello.
So we have a full complement.
Just checking.
Chris, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, Deb.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. My laptop is down in Florida, so I don't have the, I can't go into the Zoom meeting, but I'll bring it back next time I go down.
That's all right. I mean, that's fine. You don't see my ugly mug on the TV or on the computer either for a reason.
I was hoping to see it.
Yeah, good luck with that. All right, so if we got everybody here, and the meeting has been recorded, so I will call the meeting of the Freetown Planning Board to order, and I have to read the Governor's order first. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 18, or Section 18, excuse me, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people who may gather in one place. This meeting of the Freetown Planning Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Freetown's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Oh, that's a mouthful. Anyway. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in. We do have a rather lengthy agenda tonight, so we're going to try and stay on point and keep things moving for everybody's benefit. So just a polite reminder for those that are just joining us for the first time, and if you go to the town's website, freetownma.gov, and you click on the boards and committees and then click on the planning board, you will see that on the right-hand side on the news and announcements, you will see a December 15, 2020 meeting materials. All of the materials that are going to be presented tonight, unless newly created, but everything that we have will be on there, so you can, in effect, follow along if you have the ability to do the Zoom on the computer, or have access to a computer. So we will be referring to plans and sheet numbers and all, and you can follow along right with that. If anybody else has anything before I get started, I'm going to jump right in. Again, we are recording this meeting, so just so everybody's aware of that. So first thing on our agenda, we have a discussion on a Form A application for Huron Avenue prepared by Outback Engineering. Is anybody here to speak on that?
Yeah, this is PJ Babineau from Outback Engineering.
How are you, PJ?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you all?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, I know you guys saw this before, but we're just basically creating two non-buildable lots. There's 3+ acres there, and we're just cutting off a little piece that's going to be basically transferred to an abutter.
Yeah, PJ, so this is the sticking point that we had at the last meeting, and I think that even Chris, our planning technician, had shared some initial thoughts early on that at least for as long as I've been on the board, which is close to 20 years, and for some time before that, and through guidance in the Form A handbook, A&R handbook, that the minimum requirement for us signing an A&R is that you have the frontage. It's been the way that we've done it here. Again, I think guidance through the A&R handbook has shown us that. It's kind of a mixed bag. I had the planning technician reach out to other planners in other towns, and some were vehement and absolutely no, they need to have the minimum frontage, and others were, yeah, we'd sign a plan like that, as a matter of fact. So before, and I think this was the hesitancy of the board, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think the consensus was before we go down this road, we would need something to hang our hat on to say, okay, give us the inspiration to change 25 years of how we do things and us to kind of shy away from the guidance in the Form A, or the A&R handbook. So, it was kind of, yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, like I said, I've done hundreds of these in every town, and I could have sworn I sent Nils a plan that was done recently that you guys signed that was doing the exact same thing. It was basically creating a non-buildable parcel that was just going to be conveyed to an abutter. I could find many more. Like I said, I spent a half hour.
No,
searching.
I hear what you say, and you're not wrong. And you're not wrong, PJ. But was that a result of creating a conforming lot and having a remaining land situation, which oftentimes is the result, whether it's landlocked, whether it's got a bunch of whatever the case may be, whether they want to donate that parcel at another time, and yes, so if someone comes in and saying we're creating that, you're not wrong, but usually that's in response to us creating a buildable lot or making something compliant, and then you have the remaining land that is non-compliant, and so that's kind of been, I don't want to call it an end around, but that's kind of been the modus operandi of the planning board for a substantial amount of time, and. You know,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just concerned if we start changing both of these lot lines, right? So the parcel A is being carved out of what? You tell me.
Yeah, the existing parcel there, just the remaining land. There's a big parcel, and we're just cutting off a small piece. And the way I look at it is like if you own 100 acres and you have an abutter who wants to, enlarge their backyard, and they just want to buy, a 50 by 100 foot because they want to put a swing set in their backyard, and you own 100 acres, and you say, yeah, I will sell you this small piece of land, and I will keep my remaining land.
I'm not.
All I can say is I've done this hundreds of times. And as long as we label it non-buildable, it's not like.
That's a boilerplate that we require on every Form A. That this, endorsement of this plan does not constitute buildability. What we do know, or at least the question is, whatever lot that we're taking this out of. You said it's the larger lot. Is that the James and Robert Allen lot, or is that?
No,
I see the remaining land. No, I'm sorry.
The owner is it's Hugo and Alice Donatelli. They own that.
I see it now. Yep. So that's the person who owns the round pond and everything else.
Yeah. If you look at the locust map, it shows the whole parcel.
Yeah.
And they're just cutting off that one little piece.
Yeah.
Basically, so I mean, it's the abutter across the street that wants to buy it just so we can park his car there or whatever. And like I said, I've done hundreds of these. Cutting off a little piece of land, give it to an abutter.
Yeah. It's interesting that we talk about this, and in fairness to you, I'm wondering if you came to the board, and this is just I'm throwing this out there for the board. Because I do think that we're going to have to re-examine how we do things and maybe tighten up and come up with our own, But, I wonder if we were approached with the Donatelli parcel and said, hey, I want to create this lot. We're going to have this remaining parcel of land that's not buildable. This is just the remaining land. I wonder if it was swapped, if the description was swapped. Because the Donatelli parcel appears to be big enough and has frontage. And if that came in, I think we would sign the Form A. So I'm wondering at this point in time if it's just a matter of, well, let me get the board's opinion on that. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? If you see the plan and you look at the locust map, you've got the remaining land, which is actually the existing parcel. And again, I'm asking out loud. I think in fairness to the applicant, we asked them to come here for a discussion. So if they approached us and said, yes, we want to create this new lot lines here on Huron Ave for Mr. Donatelli, he's got frontage, he's got plenty of land, you're kind of obligated to sign the Form A. We have this remaining parcel that's a non-buildable. This is the remaining land. We're just going to leave this off to the side. We understand it's just, would we have signed that? I guess that's the question. Now, I don't want you all arguing with me all at once, so take your time.
If an A&R
No
plan-
comment.
If an A&R plan comes in with the required frontage, we're obligated to sign it. Even
Right.
if the piece that's left off is a parcel, and that's in the
Yep.
A&R handbook. You're taking exception for the parcel that's being created doesn't have the required frontage.
Well, I think what I'm saying is I think the application comes in to create parcel A, and again I'm wondering, and this is what we do. It's the minutia sometimes of zoning, but I'm wondering if the application was changed and the plan was changed to represent that the new lot that we're creating is in fact lot that is eligible for A&R. The remaining land, which we'll call parcel A, is now just that. It is a remaining parcel of land after the creation of that buildable lot, or excuse me, that A&R endorsed eligible lot. So I'm just wondering, PJ, if that's not, well, Bob, what you feeling?
I'll be honest with you, Kevin. Under the way I read out of the handbook, the 81P, you can create a lot without enough. I'm sorry, not a lot. You cannot create a lot. You can create
Right.
a parcel with less than the frontage required, as long as it's labeled that it can never be used as buildable. One of the examples they give is for the purposes of subdivision control. Parcel A, in this case, cannot be used as a site for a building. Or if he is going to attach, you can do parcel A is to be conveyed to an abutting property owner, is not available as a site for a building. And that way,
Okay.
it doesn't speak to zoning, because A&R doesn't speak to zoning, and we make them put
Right.
that boilerplate in that this doesn't change underlying zoning. This is still, required for zoning, but this would actually put a stamp on there and tells anybody in the future, this is not a buildable piece of land. This land is just a parcel, and it's a piece. So that's the way.
So what is that?
81P.
I'm not discounting that, Bob. I'm not. I'm just, again, there's been a consistency by which we have done this. And I think we can maintain that consistency if just a couple of words are changed on an application and on the plan. And I think it meets, to go back to, yes, this is not a buildable lot, there's already existing structures on those. Now, they're labeled as sheds, whether they're big enough that they would require a building permit or not, but, so I think each case is individual. And I don't know, PJ. Let me ask you, PJ. I'm going to be a stick in the mud. If you went back and changed the wording on the and take the remaining land as now the new lot, do you understand what I'm saying, PJ?
Yeah, it's kind of just.
Okay. No.
Just.
All right. You know what? I'll entertain a motion from the board. Whatever the board. Let's remember, folks, that we do have to act on this because it's an A&R. So it is not going to ruin my supper either way. And so if there's a comfort level, I think I would sign it tonight. If the remaining land and parcel A would just swapped on the plan, I'd have no problem signing it because it would be more consistent with what we do. But if not, then it's going to take somebody to make a motion and a second, and I will call the vote and we go from there.
I have no problem changing any wording on the plan if that's all it takes.
Well, I think you heard what I said, PJ. I mean, I'm not the end all and be all. I'm begging my board to make a motion and get a second to move on from this, but I don't know if you're not winning any hearts here. So, if at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but the situation we're in.
If it's verbiage, we'll change the verbiage. I have no problem doing it.
Why don't we do that? And why don't you reach out to Chris and we'll clarify that. There'll be no additional charge to create the lot. And I think at the end of the day, I will have no problem signing that and endorsing that, because again, I think it just stays more consistent to Honest to God, sorry. It stays more consistent to how we've been doing it. And so I appreciate you.
No, I have no problem.
All right. So that being said, why don't we do this? You get it back to us. Reach out to Chris tomorrow. He'll give you exactly, I think you know exactly what to do. And we get a new copy over here. And how about this? I'll entertain a motion that should the new plan come in that changes the wording from remaining land and parcel A, if they just swap those and the Form A application reflects that the creation of the new lot will be the Donatelli lot, then that we would endorse that. So I'll entertain that motion now.
So move, Kevin.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and supported. If there's no further discussion, Zoom requires a roll call vote, so this will be tedious, but here we go. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Debbie Robbins.
Aye.
Debbie Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. You get that thing over here, we'll get it signed, we'll get it back to you.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you indulging us.
Oh,
All right. Have a great night, BJ.
You.
All right. Okay, next on our agenda, review and endorse decision for Neon Innovation Way special permits and site plan review decision. Again, if you go to the website under the documents, it should be the last, two of the last three. One is our draft conditions and the other one is the Innovation Way draft conditions, but were edited by Tom Kaloran. We had determined at the last meeting that we would come up with this and if there was anything that needed to be cleaned up. So you can, Tom, are you with us?
I am. I'm here.
Hi, Tom. So thank you for taking the time to do that. And so if folks want to look at that, his edits are in blue. And if you want, we can go over them. There's only 4 changes on all of the things, so it looks like we were pretty much on. And one of them, I think, was actually discussed at the last meeting, is relative to the requirement for the menu boards to be submitted to us for some sort of review. But we had determined that at the end of the day, menu boards are by right, if they're done within certain guidelines under the sign bylaw, so there is no request. So that's one of them that you took off. So
Correct.
I don't think anybody is going to take issue with that. I think really where there was just a couple of other changes would be on the site plan review waivers. You're in agreement with everything else that was sent out that we had agreed at the last meeting, other than the last waiver with adding the word as shown on approved plans. So
And the
again,
reason,
please.
no, I was just going to state, Mr. Chairman, again, thank you, Attorney Tom Killorn, on behalf of the applicant. The reason why I added that verbiage on there is because I think what ultimately ended up was sort of a compromise where there was some catch basin to catch basin connection, but all of them weren't connected. So I just thought it would be appropriate to reference the plans because some of them are connected, some aren't.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. That should be on all things, referencing whichever plan. So that's fine. Again, does anybody from the board take issue with adding that wording? Okay. So the other 2 items, if you would take a look at the site plan review conditions, and they're all as separate documents when you click on that. So it's going to be page, site plan review, it's going to be page 5 within that PDF if you're using the edited. And I believe it's items 8 and 9, if you would like to discuss that.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, since after the last hearing, there was some question raised as to the turning radius for a fire truck around the, what I'll call the gas station building. And I think as soon as we were done with that hearing, or at least by the next day, Brandon had sent that revised plan to EPG, as well as to the board, showing that the plans had been modified to accommodate that turning radius. So I don't think there were any issues with that. And then there was also an updated landscaping plan has already been submitted. So we were just looking to remove 8 and 9 because I think we've already complied with that.
Okay, so now I'm gonna get, you're gonna earn your money tonight, Tom. So it's a condition of approval. So we wouldn't sign off on the approval unless those conditions were met. So you've met the conditions, so we sign the approval. I don't know if we want to leave the wording in there just with a caveat that says submitted on this date, submitted on that. I don't care.
That's fine with me. I've got no issue leaving them in then.
Okay.
I guess
it
the
gives
reason
you
why
more
we
credit.
suggested is because we think we complied with it already. But
You
again,
have.
if it's a condition of approval and we've complied with it, we don't have a problem with them staying as is.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how we voted on it, that these were the conditions of approval. You get that, it meets the conditions, then we sign off on it. So
That's
I think
fine.
at the
That
end of
makes
the,
sense.
okay, I think at the end of the day, well, does anybody on the board have any issues with leaving those in and just putting on the date that we've received them or whatever on there? I'm going to take that as a no. So Chris, what we'll do is we will put whatever date that we received that information from Tom or Dupree. We'll put that on there as received on that date, and then that way when we sign it and it's a date post that, we know that that condition was met and it's really not an outstanding condition. So that'd be fine.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. Is there anything else, Tom?
No, that was it.
Okay, so our only outstanding item for the board to take up is just an official vote on this. Where we left it was we approved it, we had the conditions as stated, but we wanted to see them in writing. We have them in writing. I have reviewed them. I don't see any issues with anything on there. It was pretty much spot on what we had talked about specifically. So if anybody would like to make a motion on approving the documents for site plan review conditions, the waivers, and the special permit approvals and conditions, I would be happy to hear that.
I'll make a motion to sign the final as presented.
I need a second.
Second.
Motion made, supported. No further discussion on the motion. Roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
I think he's muted.
Jim, I think you're muted, buddy. We'll come back to him. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Jim, are you back with us?
I am.
All right.
Sorry
Do
about
you
that.
say aye? That's okay.
Aye.
Thank you. So Jim Freites, aye. So it passes unanimously. All right, Tom, again, on behalf of the board, it was a pleasure working with you guys on this. We look forward to this much needed project here. As you see in the approval documents, it's spelled out in our findings that this type of facility is needed to help eliminate some of the traffic and congestion and stuff that goes on here in the village. So again, thank you very much and good luck to you folks.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Hope everybody has a nice Christmas.
Yes, be safe. Have a happy holiday. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay. Next on our agenda, number 3, we have a continued public hearing for Danielle Oliveira. This is for a definitive subdivision plan, 1 Madesha Way. If I'm not mistaken, Chris, and I'm sure you'll correct me, they've asked for a continuance. Is that correct?
Yes, and Byron's on the Zoom call too, so.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, okay.
I don't
So
know if it's a date
I-
or something.
I'll call it back to order. Byron, you're here. Do you want or need to say anything on this?
No, you're correct that they do want a continuance. As you know, this is a one-lot subdivision that was heard quite some time ago. There's
Yeah.
a dispute on how the deed came to be for the property, and it still has not yet been heard by the courts.
Oh, yeah, and that probably won't happen anytime soon.
No,
What
they've
you're
been
saying.
postponed several times because of COVID, and there's not a schedule right now.
Right. So, Chris, you said our next regularly scheduled meeting would be what? We're gonna either have to jam it in on the 29th between Christmas and New Year's, and I don't think anybody is gonna be, I don't know how many people are actually gonna be around. I may actually be heading up north myself for the New Year's. So would it be January 5th, Chris?
That's when we schedule the public hearing
Right.
for the solar rules and regulations discussion.
Right.
Yeah. After that would be
All
the 19th.
Right. I'm just curious. All right, so you know what? I have no problem. You want to go to the 19th on this then?
May as
Byron?
well, if that's the furthest one out, then we'd take that one.
Okay. So we'll continue the Mendacia, well, I'll entertain a motion to continue the Mendacia Way public hearing for the single lot subdivision to January 19th at 6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and supported. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. All right. So we'll see you on this one, I guess on the 19th. Okay, next on our agenda, we have the application, this is a continued public hearing for an application for TJA Solar. This is for a solar array to be located off of Chase Road. So since this was a continuation, I will call it back to order. Do we have the applicant here? Again, folks, most of the documents that are associated with this, in fact, are on the website, so you can follow along if you'd like. Do we have the applicant or their representative here? Azu, are you here?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This is Azu Etuniu from ET Engineering, the project engineer and surveyor for the project. This meeting was continued to tonight. We had a conference since the last meeting. You may recall, Chairman, from the last meeting, there were outstanding issues relating to timing of submittal of certain documents, the owner, the project developer, scale of drawing, and I believe the board, all those are minor items. The board expressed opinion on each of them that the waivers that we were asking for, and reasonable. And then there was certain items relating to groundwater mounting, certain questions that were developed by environmental partners through their review process. As you may recall, this is a joint application in terms of what we filed with the Conservation Commission and the environmental partners did the reviews. And we addressed those comments. We had a conference about a couple of weeks ago to address additional comments, and we submitted responses to those remaining items. And last night we had a hearing with the Conservation Commission, and the commission approved the project based on the revisions that were made and that were verified verbally by a representative of environmental partners. So I do believe that we have satisfied the review comments, the outstanding issues, but I will, I'm not sure if somebody from environmental partners It's on the meeting. I will not presume to speak for them, so they can chime in, but I do believe from our perspective that we addressed all those outstanding issues. And we'll entertain any comments or questions, and that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm assuming Adam Muscat is here?
Yeah, it's Adam Cran with Environmental Partners.
Adam, we're spending a lot of time together, I'll tell you, on these Zoom meetings. So you heard what Azu said, and I think, again, we've seen these plans, we've talked about these plans, there've been a lot of questions about these plans, and really the outstanding items were, I guess, technical, extremely technical in nature, at least from my perspective. The board implored me and allowed me to do that conference with you guys, and there was what sounded to me a good resolution of all the outstanding issues. Granted, there was work to be done and review to be done. So did the final end product, are we at where we need to be now, Adam?
Essentially, yes. I believe that at the last meeting, there was some discussion about waivers and conditions, so there may be some conditions put on the planning board approval, but they've essentially met what we're looking for.
Perfect. See that, Azu?
Yeah.
It took a little while. But I think when everybody came together, at the end of the day, we've got a better product.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody here from the general public? I should note that these are public hearings. The public is invited to participate after the applicant makes their presentation. We open it up typically. And if you want, just get our attention, just excuse me, pardon me, hey Kevin, something, just state your name for the record, and you can ask questions that way. So at the end of the day, does the planning board have any questions on this, or any, was there any thought to conditions that needed to be put on this? Chris, had we talked about, and I don't remember, has an official waiver list been submitted or an official conditions list been submitted?
I have to go back and check about the waiver list, but a conditions list has not been submitted because this has been going on for
Right.
2 years or so.
Right. So, and again, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything special that we had come up with conditions under the planning board review that were talked about and we had started any kind of list, and I don't think that that's the case. So, you did not, Azu, have you provided us with an official waiver request? Are there any waiver requests?
I believe initially, but that did not ever include the items that we discussed. And those items will be the scale of the drawing.
Yeah.
The scale of the drawing, and then our list of the names of the contact person, which we asked that we put that in when we when we start prior to construction. Providing the insurance, which we will agree to provide to the planning board at the time that we file for a building permit. And then the posting the bond at the time the building permit application is filed.
Yeah, that's stuff that we talked about in conference. And so I guess the question is, have you created a final document with those waiver requests on them for our approval?
I don't have
okay.
It shouldn't take that much to read them, Mr. Chairman. So I'm not sure how your agenda is for this evening.
Well, how about this? You're the second number 3 on my agenda, but out of I've got 10 items on the agenda tonight. How about that? So it's a rather busy one. So what I'm getting at is, you can talk about, that's fine, right? But typically, we wait just like we did on the prior application. When we get the final document, so we know exactly the wording of what, it's one thing to hear it and all, but it's a whole nother thing to have it on the piece of paper. So typically, we would close the public hearing. You would talk about your waivers. We would, I guess, verbally consensus-wise say, yeah, we don't have a problem with those waivers. But then endorsement would be contingent upon, a list of those waivers as approved at the board meeting, the wording, that's all.
Okay.
See what you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. So.
Yeah, all right.
Based on the discussions that we have, at least since this meeting is being recorded, Mr. Chairman, if those waivers can be made part of a decision when the board assigns the plan, is that something that would be, would it be necessary to continue the hearing? I'm just thinking that if. No, I started, listen, we're all cognizant of where everybody wants to get with this. We all want to kind of, move on from this project. It's been under a lot of review and everybody's worked hard. So my point is, we would close the public hearing, right? Mm-hmm. And we're at the point now where we can start to either approve or deny or set conditions if we wanted to. But typically, we can approve the waivers, but what we don't want is not to have the documents in front of us so we can read exactly what the waivers are and what they represent. So that's kind of what we do. I don't have a problem if you want to go through the waiver list. Let's do it, man. You have if you have it somewhere written down. Yes, but I don't know if you want it in your possession. What I'm saying is, if instead of holding up everybody, I can. If you can table my hearing, I will email Chris the list, and then you can take us up at the end of the meeting. Is that possible?
Okay. Yeah.
Then
that's possible.
So we can table this and then continue with the rest of the items, and then call us back, and I will have the list, and I will email that to Chris as well.
Okay. So it's interesting. I don't know, in all my time, I don't know that I've actually done that before. So I thought I was pretty astute on the Robert's Rules of Orders, but this is one. I think at the end of the day, if somebody just makes a motion to continue the public hearing to 7 o'clock tonight, well, I don't even know if you do that. Don't you need 48 hours to do? No. So you know what? Yes, we'll table the public hearing for now. We'll keep that as an aside, and we'll move on to the next public hearing, and we'll take it up. So email that stuff to us, and we'll get you at the end of the meeting. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So next on our agenda, we have the Mitch Kev. This is for a site plan review for a commercial development at 0 Brayley Road. I will call that back to order. Again, Chris, the applicant's asked for a continuance.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go to the 19th on that one too. And I know, what is the outstanding item? Are they being reviewed right now? We did receive funds for review?
Yes, I think they're putting together like the final updated plans and submission to send to EPG to have a review. Okay.
Adam, since you're here, if you could just kind of keep us abreast of this, because this has been going on for a while, and I think we all appreciate the fact with the corona and just how things are going, but at a certain point in time, we need movement on this. So if they've gotten you the stuff now and you're reviewing it, that's good. So just keep us in the loop as you always do. So I'll entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to January 19th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and supported. If there's no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Jim Freites.
Aye.
Chris Mello.
Aye.
Kevin Damaris, aye. Okay, continued. Okay, next is item number 5. We have this is a continuation of a public hearing for an application for Bryant Hill LLC Solar Energy Systems. This is a solar array located on, I think, Zero Quarry Drive. So I will call that back to order. Is there well, Steve here. Is it Steve that's going to be here? Is anybody here from the engineers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Steve Gioso at SciTech.
Hi, Steve.
How are you? How are you tonight?
Good, thank you. So, where do we stand with this, Steve? I know where you are on the Concom side of things, but where do we stand with this? It's been a while.
It's been a while, so we did want to come in tonight and give the board a brief update. We won't take too much of the board's time. We did go through Environmental Partners' comment letter we received earlier this year, and we have made the changes outlined in that letter and submitted them back to Environmental Partners. We know it's been a short time period, only a little over a week, so we would anticipate that once they go through the comments, hopefully we've addressed the handful of items that were modified. If the board is looking at the site plan, again, this is a solar project on a series of abandoned cranberry bogs.
Steve, just stand by for half a second. Chris, I'm not seeing this on our website.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
well, if you can do it toot sweet while you're there, fine. If not, Steve, do you have the ability to do a screen share?
Yes, I can, if you'd like. I've got the drawing queued up. If you'd like me to share my screen.
Yeah, Chris, at least give them the ability to do a screen share while you're trying to get that other thing put on there.
Sure. 1 second.
Thank you. Actually, you know where the site plan would be. If you go to the conservation boards and committees on our website, because we had it on there last night, and that would be on the left. It says Conservation Commission current filings, and it's 3 Quarry Drive, so it's about 2/3 of the way down. So we have the ability there. Chris, see if you can't get it up on our website on the planning side, and give Steve the ability to screen share if you haven't already. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Can the board members see the drawing on the screen at this point?
If you can, Steve.
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect.
Okay.
Steve, if you can, just reference the sheet to whatever page
All right,
you're on.
Okay, so this is sheet 2 of the plan set, which is going to give you an overview of the overall site. I think it's probably the most comprehensive of the plans that you can see. I'll slide down here a little bit. You can see Quarry Drive up to the north of the site where it intersects with Bryant, and off to the, and so north is generally to the top of the drawing. And then the shaded area, and you can see the solar panels here with the green shading representing the proposed layout for the panels. And as I indicated, we've made a number of, I think, technical changes to the plans, relatively minor notation changes. We've bolstered some of the erosion control at the request of Environmental Partners. We also added the 200-foot riverfront zone down in this area here. And we did, as the chairman indicated, meet with the Conservation Commission last night. We did discuss this particular area, which is located on the western edge of the project. And I've actually already reviewed that with the client. We've modified the plan. We're actually going to pull all of the activity out of the riverfront area so that we skirt the edge of the riverfront area with the fencing, pull the panels back, and we're actually going to eliminate a couple hundred modules from the project. It doesn't affect the economics of the site design in this case. So we think it works really well, and it avoids that resource area from a conservation standpoint. So you will be getting a revised plan. We're actually ready to issue that tomorrow, showing a modified layout in this area. So again, another reason why we'd be looking for a continuance tonight. But essentially, it's a project kind of unique in the solar field where we're not looking to clear virgin land in this case. These are abandoned bogs that have reverted back to upland areas. We've done a series of test pits to verify that they are in fact upland in nature. And so it's a relatively straightforward project from that standpoint, where we're dealing with existing altered land throughout the project vicinity. We're basically bolstering a little bit of the access drives, eliminating some of the existing access drives that serve the Cranberry operation, and maintaining the access that exists here on the northeast side that comes down from Quarry. So the access will be from Quarry down into the project along an existing gravel drive. So relatively straightforward. I know we haven't been before you in a while, but the changes were mostly notes to the plans, including notations regarding the emergency contact information, who the installer will be, contact information for that person. We again changed the detail on erosion control on the plan. We took some notations that were on the approved solar project that we presented to you back this summer for High Street, and carried forward those same standard notations restricting parking on the public ways by construction equipment. And we've added information regarding the need to get approvals from the local utility companies and provide that to the board. We revised the decommissioning outline as suggested and resubmitted that as part of the package. We also submitted a one-line electrical diagram as requested as part of the filing requirements for this type of project. So I think with those and a couple of survey notes regarding when the survey was done, the benchmark references, those are the extent of the changes we've had to make at this point. And I think given that we are going to be giving you another minor revision, we'd obviously be looking for continuance tonight to allow that to occur, and also to allow environmental partners sufficient time to review all the revised data. We did appear before conservation last night and continued for a couple of weeks. So we'll defer to the board on when the appropriate date would be to continue to, and we'll return to see you one more time, hopefully.
Okay, Adam, is that a pretty much accurate assessment of where we stand? You guys have received their responses and you're reviewing them now?
That is correct, yeah. And it seems like this should be pretty straightforward.
Okay. So here's the deal. I threw it out there, but I don't know that we have enough people around on the 29th to actually have a meeting. I know it's by Zoom, but the reason why people aren't around is probably because they're going to be away for the holidays or busy. I know, I understand we're not supposed to, I get all that with the corona, but I think people still have plans anyway, whether it's to spend time with their immediate family or not. So the only other alternative after that is we have a public hearing on January 5th, but we're trying to keep that a standalone event. That's the public hearing to discuss the rules and regulations, proposed changes to the solar. So after that, it looks like the 19th of January.
Okay.
All right.
Listen, we've dragged our feet on this long enough, so I can't.
Well, I was only going to say that if you push back a little bit, Steve. I wasn't going to bring that up.
No. Listen, you skipped over me last night in the meeting, and I didn't take offense to that. So
that is true, I did.
But no, absolutely no issue. We understand the issues with scheduling this time of year, so no problem at all with the 19th of January.
All right, and that goes, if there's any other applicants that are representatives tonight hearing that I don't want to have to repeat this every time, but yeah, it looks like the 19th is probably going to be the next one where we can actually have a full board to do this stuff. So, all right, so that being said, is there any questions from the board? If there isn't, then I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to January 19th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made, supported. There's no further discussion on the motion, then roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. So, really? Jim, really? Are we keeping you up,
Oh,
buddy?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No, I'm
yeah.
sorry. 4 o'clock comes very early. I have
Oh, I
4
know, I
o'clock, a
know.
12-hour workday, and then doing this is a big prolonged day. I'm sorry.
Right, why? Who do you know that works that hard? You weren't talking about you.
You know I do.
All right,
Yeah.
Steve, we'll see you on the
Uh-huh.
19th, buddy.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Good night,
Have a
folks.
safe holiday. Merry Christmas.
Well, I'll be on for the next, not the next hearing, the one after that. So I'm sticking around for a little more entertainment.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there it is.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll
So-
yawn a little bit later for you.
Thanks. So we have a continuation of a public hearing. This is for the application for 125 South Main Street LLC. The petitioner is requesting a development design special permit under the planned mixed-use development bylaw to construct a 72-unit residential apartment along with a business. It says a mini self-storage, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen plans that have removed that. So, but at the end of the day, this has to have two of them. So there's going to be a business there in order to operate under the PMUD. So I will call that public hearing back to order. Do we have the applicant or the representative? Before we start, excuse me, I would imagine, Deb, you're going to be stepping away from the meeting. Is that correct?
Yep, I was going to say that. Yep.
Okay, good. So let the minutes reflect, obviously, video and everything else reflect that the member, Deb Robbins, is stepping away and removing and recusing herself from any and all conversation relative to this project. That being said, this is for a site plan review, correct?
Right.
I'm sorry, no, this is special permit. So under that special permit, we have Dave Croce, who's our associate member. And Dave, this is your time to shine, my friend. You get to actually be involved with this here. So, are you there, Dave? Hey, Chris, is Dave with us?
I think he is. He's muted.
He's muted, though. He's muted. *6, or whatever you need to do to unmute. Okay, so just let the minutes reflect that Dave is now taking the, hi Dave, is now taking the place of Debbie, and she has recused herself. So if that's said, the applicant or the representative, you're here and you want to make a presentation?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Niles Zager from Zenith Consulting Engineers.
Good evening, Niles. Niles, I'm sorry, before you get started, quick question. Do we have the latest iteration of the plans?
That's correct. You should.
Okay, and they're on our website?
I believe so, yes.
Chris?
Yeah, it's the October 30th ones, right?
That's correct.
Yep, they are.
Perfect. I love it when a plan comes together. So, if everybody looks, this is the Asonic Commons, and you will see, where does it say the October 30th one? Where am I?
It'll say it in the middle, all the way to the right in the middle. There's a revision block, number 3, 10, 30, 20.
No, I just don't know which PDF to click on, Chris, so you're going to have to help me here. Asonic Commons site plan set. There we go.
One. Yes.
Yep. Okay. So this is the, again, folks, just I apologize, but this is hard when we're doing this. So you get 10, 30, 20. Perfect. Thank you. So go ahead. And again, if you could, Niles, when you're discussing this, just reference whatever sheet number you're on for us, okay?
So I actually, at the last meeting, I believe I discussed the project that so at the first meeting we came in front of you, we had a similar 72 unit layout, but we also had some mini storage up in the northeastern portion of the property. And at the last meeting, I went over the new layout. Essentially what we've done is we've eliminated that whole self-storage facility, and we've basically included a a retail portion of the project within the proposed modular buildings that we're showing here. So again, at the last meeting, we discussed all this. I've already presented it all to the board. I just wanted to tonight pretty much go over the comments that we had addressed from EPG. You know, they were very minor in nature in our, you know, in our opinion. And if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman.
I think he stepped away for 1 second. So I'll just let you know when he gets back.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Are you looking for me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had to step out. I'm sorry. I should have told you, but I ended up getting a phone call, so I had to step out. I apologize.
Don't apologize. So I basically, what I was getting at was at the last meeting that we had, we discussed the project and what was, what new changes were. So I've already kind of gone through that. I don't know if the board wants me to go through it again, but essentially we've eliminated the self-storage portion of the project, and basically included the retail portion of the project within the two proposed modular buildings. And, you know, this has been reviewed by EPG. The new layout has been reviewed by EPG. And what I was planning on doing tonight was just kind of going through the comments and responses that we have to these plans. And if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. That would be great just to bring everybody up to speed.
Absolutely. So I'm going to try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. The first comment is to do with stormwater management. The standard number 3, there's a requirement that the basin in the front has to be 10 feet from the property line. They recommend 10 feet. We were originally trying to maintain an existing drainage, an existing depression that was there. So we were not meeting that 10 foot, but after speaking with our client, the applicant, we decided to push it 10 feet and regrade that area. So we believe that we meet that requirement now. And we
Niles, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to. The item you're speaking about, this is on our website. So you can find the response. You'll see it as response letter to EPG's review under the Assonet Commons. So if you, right, am I correct at that? That's the October 30th, 2021?
That's correct. And if you like, I can share
If you want to do screen share, Chris, give me the ability. Again, those at home on the computer want to do it that way. You can follow along. So either way.
I mean, if you like, that's up to you. However you like to do it.
How about I just wanted to keep it moving. So if you can do it while you're talking, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. So that was the first one. The second one, again, drainage related. There was a question about the catch basins being able to handle all the flow towards the catch basins, being able to handle the 25-year storm. So the only one that was not capturing all was CB3. Basically what we've done is we've accounted for that and it overflows into CB2. And actually what we've done is we've reanalyzed it for the 100-year storm event. So any flow that goes to them can handle up to the 100-year storm event, including any carryover that might take place. So we're confident that is the case in that one. The next comment, number 8 that they have, is in relation to their letter. Number 8 is, it's actually the same as the first one that we discussed. We basically redesigned, it's just a repetitive thing. We redesigned the basin in the front to meet the 10-foot property line setback. So that's just a repetitive one. Number 9, the landscape plantings near the stormwater basin side slopes. Again, since there was a question about some plantings in the basin berm. We redesigned that basin to get rid of all of that, so that's not an issue either. Number The next one is more to do with stormwater management rainfall intensities. TR 55 and DEP stormwater management give standard rainfall intensities. EPG is recommending that we use the Cornell rates, which would increase the 100-year storm event from 7 inches to over 9 inches in the 100-year storm. Again, it's not in the DEP's regulation, it's not in the Freetown regulations. So we're asking the board to agree with, to understand that, because I mean, that's something that, how would we know without having it in writing somewhere beforehand? So I guess that's something I would like to talk to the board about before I move on.
I'll say this, it's not in there now, it may be in the future, right? We talk about this all the time now, that our rules and regulations, if we don't stay on top of them, if we don't do it, zoning is a living, breathing thing. It changes, it moves, so I get it. There may be more or better metrics to use, but if our regulations and requirements don't require that, then I think at the end of the day, push come to shove, that we'd be hard pressed to hold you to that standard. I get why EPG is doing it, and again, we are currently looking at other rules and regulations that we're working on, so we will probably reach out to EPG for some of their help on some of these things, and that'll probably get incorporated at a later date. But I agree. In a previous life, I used to kind of do what you guys do on that side and was involved with stuff like that. And, they give you the rules, they give you the regulations, you design it to that. You don't want to have to change it later on because somebody's changed their mind. That's my opinion, is that if you're reaching and you're meeting the current requirements, even if they are, a bit older than what could be, I'm okay with that. But again, I'm one member. Is there any other board members that would like to comment? Not to oversimplify, I think everybody basically understands it, is there's just different metrics or ways to measure or assume the data, if you will, and we require a certain assumed data, and EPG is saying that, it might be better or more beneficial to use this other data. It's just that our requirements aren't there for it. So I appreciate that they pointed it out. Again, they are thorough. But I think as a procedural thing, we'd be hard pressed to hold somebody's feet to the fire on something that is outside of what our requirements are. Okay. So if there's no other comment on that, I guess we can, by consensus, do we agree with that? Disagree?
I personally don't see how you can hold an applicant to a requirement to a standard that's not required by either state statute or town bylaw. So, or our rules and regulations. So I think we have to hold them to what we require and not what we would like to see. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was looking for, Bob. So I appreciate that. Again, not downplaying what EPG's done. They're just pointing out that, hey, you know what? In a perfect world, maybe everybody would be using this, and it's something that will have to come along. You look at some of our requirements for drainage structures, and I think some of the requirements, some of those companies aren't even in business anymore. They've changed their name or whatever. So, yeah. All right. So I think by consensus, if there's no opposition to that, I think we can move on to the next item.
So the next item is there was a question about the maximum number of proposed units. We're proposing 72. I think what wasn't being seen was that it is an over 55 age restricted project. So in that case, you're allowed 7 residential units per acre. So that's where we're getting the 72 units from. So that's, I think EPG just didn't see that. So we definitely meet that requirement. the next question, the next one was the photometrics plan, which I believe that you've been provided, and that we've provided a photometrics plan, basically just showing where the lumens are, what the lumens are, showing that we're not shedding any light onto you know, any abutting properties, or you know, essentially we're bounded by, you know, a huge slope in the back, as well as wetlands on the southern side of the property. You've got some, you know, you've got South Main Street to would be the west, and then you do have a few residential properties to the north. But we're showing with the photometrics plan that we are not shining any light onto any other of those properties. So we feel as though that has been met. Then this is going to be a repetitive one for a few of them. Draft conservation restriction for Village Green. They're basically saying that they want it submitted prior to issuance of a building permit, and we're saying yes, we agree to that. We just don't want to. The applicant doesn't want to do that until after all, you know, all approvals are in hand.
All right, Niles, can you give me half a second? I was just told by Chris that I guess somebody has their hand raised. So is there somebody there that would like to get my attention and have a question or speak on something?
Yes, thank you. This is Christine. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Christine, how are you?
Good, thank you. Sorry, I'm coming late to the party on this one.
That's okay.
There was a reference to over 55. Is that the entire complex, or is that just a portion of the complex?
That's the entire complex.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Christine?
I think so, because 72 apartments is a lot.
Yeah, it meets the bylaw, right? The bylaw allows that to happen. And that bylaw was created, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. But yes, in the south end of Assonet, where we had the planned mixed use overlay, it was allowed near the train station to do a development like this, where you would have residents that would utilize public transportation, but it also allows to do a more commercial, retail, restaurant, kind of a village kind of deal if they chose to. So there's some additional potential acreage on the other side of the street remaining, but in this case, this is what they chose. And so, yes, it does sound like a lot, but it's well within their rights and well within the bylaw.
Okay, so it's 72 units, all 55 or older.
You got it.
Are there going to be any waivers for that age limit?
Well, here's the thing, Christine. What do you mean by that? Because again, the planning board, our purview is restricted to just what our rules and regulations. If you're asking how they're going to operate their business, that's something you can do as an aside. It's not something that we discuss during the meeting. It's inconsequential to the issuances of our permits. So,
okay.
No, and I'm not trying to dismiss you. I just don't want you sitting around waiting to think that you can get some of those other answers. No.
It was just, I didn't know they were going to put in a 72-unit apartment complex in the south side of town.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's been well received and much needed. The planning board has been looking out and try to find ways to create affordable senior housing within town. And when I say affordable, I don't mean a low income. Again, that's not what this is being proposed for. At least it hasn't been said. And I don't think that that's the case. I believe these has said that they're going to be market rate, but just by the mere fact that they are a smaller unit on that, they will be more affordable. And there's an awful lot of seniors here in town that would love to stay in town, and instead of having to go to a neighboring community to 55 and over or senior housing in those communities, because we don't have any. The town itself had been looking to create some, through the housing authority. But this tool had been given to developers years ago, and again, in a very small area in town where it's serviced by water and sewer and rail and highway, where it won't be as intrusive, but will also serve a purpose to the seniors here in town. So.
Yeah, no, they absolutely need some opportunities for housing. I think that part's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Christine. Appreciate it. So, Chris, next time if somebody raises their hand, you can just tell me over the Zoom or over the phone. Thanks. I know I cut you off. Where were you? You were on the draft conservation restriction, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So that was just, we're agreeing to that requirement. And that will be something that we'll do before the issuance of a building permit. The next one is, one of the requirements is, there's survey bounds at the village green. So we have the village green proposed and we're demarcating that on the plan. It requires survey bounds or survey markers. Most of it will have, is going to be bounded by the existing property line, which has some bounds at it. But this is a private, village green, and we were looking for a waiver from this because we don't feel as though it's really necessary. It's going to be bounded by significant slopes just because of the topography of the land. So we were hoping that, or we were asking the board to entertain a waiver from this if possible.
So I think the reason for this is so that in years to come, that open space does not get diminished. When you see what part of the open space, there is a requirement for a percentage, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Don't ask me to exactly what it is. But, and you've obviously met that because that wasn't the comment. The comment was they'd like to see bounds there. So what you're really asking is, do we need to put in permanent bounds in that location? And I ask you, on the set of plans that you've submitted, it has the area marked out. Does it not have meets and bounds on that? You don't have, am I saying that correctly? You don't have distances and stuff for that. It's laid out on the plan.
That's correct. Again, most of it, there's only a small section that was located within the, that's located off the existing property lines themselves. There are some bounds out there. If you go to, I don't know if anybody can see it, but page 7 out of 10, there's a area up in the northeastern portion of the property demarcated as the village green. And you'll see some significant grade changes because of the existing, the existing topography there. So essentially, we've been putting a lot of bounds, we're putting bounds in areas that essentially would never be seen. So that's mainly the reason why. But if the board sees that it needs to be done, then we will adhere to it and move forward, but we ask the waiver. Right.
I mean, you're asking for the waiver, and I guess what I'm trying to do is just better understand. And the intent with the village green is you have is it just we're going to keep it as open space? Is there not supposed to be? Are there going to be some improvements in that area?
There are. It's going to be landscaped, with grass and maybe some walkways to it, but it's also got benches for the residents of the property to utilize. So there will be some improvements in there. That's correct.
Niles, is there a sheet that shows some of those improvements?
I believe so. Just bear with me.
I was going to say, I'm just trying to find it myself. And
we've on the landscaping plan. Actually, yes. So sheet 6.
Yeah, I see it. Sheet 6. Yeah, sheet 6. Okay.
Yeah, that's the landscaping plan. I apologize. I should have probably brought you to that one.
No, that's all right.
That shows more of the benches and things of that nature that are going to be in there for the residences.
All right. In lieu of that, can you do some sort of, would a happy compromise at least a narrative that describes, like you have on your waiver request, that it's bounded by this, it's bounded by that kind of deal?
Yes.
Yeah. So you could do that.
I can provide whatever you like. If you just want something more in writing, absolutely.
Well, I think if you just, again, I'm looking for help from the board members, but it doesn't seem that, this is not an end of the world problem that barns aren't being put in. I think I know why, again, being on the board when we created these things, it's just to ensure that, so what I'm saying is, what works better for me, whether there's a bound there or not, because let's face it, somebody could go out there, a smart person go out there and actually move a bound. I know it's against the law, but it could be done. So I like a plan that shows actual things and describes, okay, it goes to this tree, it goes to, so that when somebody goes back there and looks at it, even a guy like me going on site can, well, wait a minute here, this is supposed to go over this way to that wall, but it doesn't. I can make heads or tails of that. So if maybe it's just you describe the area, you know, bounded on the north by this, bounded on the south by that, whatever. Does that satisfy the rest of the board is what I guess what I'm asking.
I'm fine with that, Kev.
Perfect, thank you.
Kevin,
Yes?
I have 2 questions on the town green.
Village Green, yes,
Village Green.
yes.
First of all, on this, it says will be the lines and such will be maintained privately. The space is still public, correct?
It's, well, let the applicant answer.
I mean, it is a private piece of property. It's going to be a private piece of property with homeowners association. So technically, no, it is not a public, it's not a public accessible way.
The PMUD says that it's a public green. That's supposed to be a public green. And my next question was, it said it should be a comprehensive plan around a public green, and I didn't know if that meant literally a typical old New England center where things were planted and built around a public green.
Yeah, Dave, I'll answer that second one. I'm going to let the applicant take care of the first one. But the second one, keeping in mind that this is a small lot that's trying to take advantage of the PMUD, but the grander area that could have been built up on the PMUD was a substantial amount of property right down there. And so, yes, the thought was, as development went through, you would have this not necessarily only in the residential area, but more of a village green situation, and they're doing an awful lot of these up in southern New Hampshire now. Wholesale, just shopping outlet, residential areas. So the thought was, if you're going to be doing something that large, that you'd want to try to have a village green in an area that everything could be utilize it. In this instance, it's a very finite piece of property. So I don't think that there's a geographic requirement. I think it's a, hey, in the grand scheme of things, this is how we'd like to see something on some of these bigger things. And I don't want to mince words with the applicant's representative, Niles, but while it is a private property, it is public in that people going to that live in the area could utilize it. If you're going to visit one of the businesses in on site, whichever that business is, you could utilize it. If guests came to the area, you could utilize it. So while it's private property, there is a public element to it. Again, the idea with the PMUD was not to try to get private developers to stop building parks for us throughout everywhere. It was to service the individuals that are actually on that location. And again, that was the intent. You know, if you're going to put commercial and residential so close, you want to have that happy balance of green area. And that was so that they wouldn't develop the entirety of the site, which is why there's that requirement in there. So I don't know that even when we drafted those bylaws that the intent was that these private property owners and developers and those that are going to pay to live and pay the costs of upkeep were going to have the assumption that this is going to be open to the general public as a park. So again, I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I'm just trying to give some historical perspective on where some of these regulations or the thought process on some of these things were. So,
Okay,
Would you
well, thank
agree with that? Yes.
That's definitely what I was looking for, the historical,
Okay,
the history behind it, because
Sure.
I'm involved in that.
well, it's a huge document, Dave, right? And I'll be honest with you, you got to read it half a dozen times, and you still got to go back. So if we don't ask questions, if we don't get the information, so I appreciate you asking that question. And I would at least like to hear Niles saying that, well, you don't have to say you agree with me, Niles, but that my assertion or assumption is that while it's privately maintained, some element of the public will be able to use it, whether it's guests, whether it's residents, or whether it's visitors to the on-site business.
So I guess I stand corrected. It's more of a legal question, I guess, on my end. But,
Right, right.
But yes, I mean, if that's the history of it, then I stand corrected. So absolutely.
Okay.
And I can speak with the applicant, after the meeting to confirm, but, I'm sure it's not an issue. But again, you would know the history better than I would, Kevin, so.
Yeah, I just think when we were having these conversations, it was okay. And again, we had Serped that came down and helped us with this, the regional planning agency, which is why you go to different communities and you might find similar style of, they always put, well, how about Mashpee Commons, or how about this, or how about, so it's because regional planning agencies get together and they promote good planning. So this was certainly more for whoever was going to be utilizing the businesses and who are going to be living there. I don't think, and if anybody on the board wants to correct this, I don't think that there was ever a thought that we were going to have them create parks so that the general public would go down there and start utilizing them. I don't think that was the case. So,
I'm being
all right.
informed, Mr. Chairman, I'm being informed by the applicant that it's not an issue. So we absolutely allow amenable to it being open to the public.
See that, Dave? Perfect. Outstanding. So now we've got it on tape, and that's great. So we appreciate the applicant being amenable to making sure, or at least affirming that there is a public component to this. So thank you very much. Yeah, so let's go down to the next one. So
Yes,
I'm
sir.
trying to respond to that. Here we go. Yeah.
The next one is actually a repeat of the conservation restriction being issued prior to building permit, which we agreed to. Another one was the.
Yeah, just, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Because we did the same thing on the Copart. We got the conservation restriction and all. And so, curious, who is going to hold the permanent conservation restriction on that? Is that going to be the Conservation Commission? Is that going to be the town?
That's something we're going to have.
I shouldn't say the town, but is it going to be conservation, or is it going to be another entity like, Wildlands Trust or whatever? Won't be mad if you won't be mad if you give it to the Conservation Commission. Just saying.
Yeah, and I think that's what my recommendation is. We actually, after we address any concerns, we're going to be filing with conservation. We just haven't done that yet.
Correct.
But yes, I think we were just going to discuss with conservation, but we were intending on giving it to the town.
Okay. Perfect. Just for clarity, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I will say this, once you get through this, the sooner we get that wording, the better. Once lawyers get involved, it can be a timely deal. We don't hold it up if it's being reviewed, but I just to let you know. So if you've got wording sooner rather than later, we'll take it.
Yep, absolutely. My applicant, the applicant will absolutely be aware of that.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. So there was a question about the detail for the site sign, if there was going to be a site sign up in the front of the property, like kind of demarcating what the Assonet Common.
Yeah.
So yes, the intent is there's going to be a sign there. We've actually put a note on the plan. Let me see if I can find, bear with me for a second here. I'm going to try to find where we had put that note. I have it somewhere.
So again,
on sheet three, we basically put a note, the project sign showing where it is, and it's going to say Sonnet Common. And then we actually have a note that says the site sign shall read as Sonnet Commons and shall be either a curved stone wall with embedded backlit sign or an engraved stone sign recessed into the wall with landscape lighting. So the applicant hasn't decided which way they're gonna go yet, but we're just trying to give a few options as to either way, it's gonna look good. It's obviously what we're trying to market the property and make sure it looks good. So, it's going to look good.
Yeah, I've always said this, the fine line, I don't want to be a planning board member that tries to design things or tells people how, colors, what they should do. Especially in business, they get, I would say like the gas station application, the fact of the matter is you can put on there the site and proposed sign, but at the end of the day, if it's not a definitive sign on there and you haven't applied through us for a permit because you don't need it, then when you go to build the sign, should it need a special permit from us, you're going to have to file an additional special permit. But if it's a by right sign by the sign bylaws, you're well within your rights to do it. We just like to see its location so that, for sight lines and things like that, that it's not going to be an obstruction and all. So you've done that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The
So we're
next
on
one-
so number 16, right?
That was number 14. Now we're on number 16.
Yep.
Yes. Site lighting plan, we've already gone through that. That's that same photometrics plan that we've already discussed. So that's
Okay.
just repetitive. The concurrence between vital statistics report and PMUD form is we've already fixed that. There was just a couple little things that needed to be fixed in there, but nothing of any concern. So it was just basically the PMUD form had to be revised because there was a couple things that had changed on areas, things of that nature, as well as the village green sizing. So we delineated that on the plans. The next thing that came up was the entrance and access to South Main Street. EPG was bringing up the fact that they thought that we might need to meet a subdivision or a public road entrance. And we're saying, no, it's a private way. So we believe that we're meeting, it as for a design standard. But we want to make sure that the board is acceptable to that and that we're not having to meet the subdivision control law for the entrance. So I'd like to have the board entertain that.
Yeah, if I could, I think that's a dropped ball on our end. We did not give very good guidance to EPG in the beginning as to what they should be reviewing this for. And I think what ended up happening was they started reviewing additional things and being proactive for us. So I don't disagree. I think at the end of the day, my concern is for this project, its intended use, intended traffic, is it safe? And I think we spoke about that. And so to me, that's the biggest concern.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, the
Please.
applicant having an issue if there was something that just said that the road in the future couldn't be turned over to the town.
It's a good point. So what you're asking is some sort of recorded document that states that this road or this, if you will, this driveway, or call it what it is, will not ever be taken over by the town, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay. Now, we can do that, right?
I don't foresee that being an issue at all.
Cool. All right.
You okay with me moving on to the next thing, or is there any other board members that have anything to say regarding that?
I'm not hearing anything, so I guess silence is golden.
You got it, sir. So the next one was the size of the village green. We on the open space plan, we just showed it a little bit better as to what was there and demarcated it like we talked about before. So again, it's just another repetitive situation here. And then they had some general comments that we went through. There's only a few of them here. The existing South Main Street drainage system, they were looking for some additional detail in the drainage system out on South Main Street, which we've actually provided. There was an existing drain manhole out on South Main. And we just showed a little bit more information on that, which has been shown on the plan. So that we believe we've taken care of, and it didn't affect our drainage analysis at all. It was just more just for more, clear plans. That's all. There was a few errors between from some elevations between the plans and the HydroCAD calculations for stormwater sizing. So we've addressed that, and again, it didn't affect the design at all, but it was just more for clarity and just kind of cleaning things up. Compensatory flood storage volumes. This is more for conservation, but something I would like to go through now as well, just to be as clear as possible. They were saying that we needed to show compensatory storage for elevation lower than 24. We were, at the time, before the basin up in the front that we spoke about before that time, we did not have any elevation that was below elevation 24 that we had to compensate for. But that being said, now that we've located that basin up in the front by South Main Street, and we moved it 10 feet from the property line we spoke about at the beginning, we did fill elevations 21 into 23. So that being said, when we moved the basin further back, we more than compensated for that and provided more than adequate compensation for that. And again, this is something that we'll go through with conservation as well, because it's more of a conservation issue. But that is something that we feel as though has been addressed.
That's how they get you, right? You try to meet the requirement on one thing, and it ends up putting you into a bind on another thing. It's
It's okay.
So which is better? You stay out of the 21 through 23, and now I'm reading there. It says that you have more than compensates for the filled area with the excavation to relocate the other basin. So I get where you're doing that, but yeah. Anyway.
The next one was handicap parking. The handicap parking spaces were moved closer to the nearest building entrance. This was actually a really good comment that they came up with, and we were very amenable to this. We moved them closer to the entrance, and the crosswalks have been added to those plans. The AAB guidelines require one handicap space in parking lots between 1 and 25 spaces. We have 20 spaces on our project, and we are providing 2 spaces, both fan accessible, which over meets the requirement that is required by AAB guidelines. So we feel as though we meet that. The next one was just add an additional crosswalk at the building entrance, which we provided. And the next one was the P mud form. Again, this is going back to that same thing with the Village Green. There was a few areas on there on the P mud form itself that needed to be revised, which we've done and provided that to the board. There was a typographical error in the drainage report, which it's in section 3.3. It was a carryover from the original design when we had the mini storage, so we fixed that. And then the last 2 is trip generation for the traffic report. We provided a traffic report, which they I think they essentially agreed with. They asked us to look at it a little bit differently as far as the total daily trips generated, depending on which retail business that we proposed. And we found that it would change the trip from 24 instead of 22 trips per day. So the differences are negligible, and the conclusions that we had do not change. And again, EPG had agreed with our report, in general anyway, but I think they were just recommending that we do just make sure that we're being as conservative as possible. So we provide that information to the board as well. And lastly, again, this is just the same exact comment regarding the handicap ramps and crosswalks being, being moved. So again, we were in agreement with that and thought it was a great suggestion, and we addressed that in the plan. So that's it. You know, I know we went through a good amount of comments there, but we feel as though the, you know, the new design that we have here is better than the original. The client, the applicant had gone back and looked at the modular buildings and what they wanted to do, and this was more fitting for what they were looking to do. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, does anybody from the public have any questions about this project?
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
If you could, just for the record, your name, sir?
Dave Cross.
That's what I thought it was you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I thought it was you, but I didn't want to assume, so go ahead.
Yep. So I looked here and there on the latest revised 10/30/20 PDF file, and I saw something confusing. It's at the very last page, way at the bottom in the notes. It says water supply lines shall have a minimum of 5 feet of cover and shall conform to the City of Taunton Department of Public Works rules and regulations.
You didn't change that, Niles?
I assume that means Fall River. It's just a cut and paste issue.
Yeah, I'm going to let him answer on the, but I thought I had mentioned that to him once already. Maybe I didn't. It's on the last page, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just an oversight.
Yep.
That's fine. So, see, that's what happens. We actually read these things. We actually look at these things. So very, very good, Dave. I appreciate you pointing that out too. If I didn't tell you that, Niles, I should have a while ago. That's on me if I didn't point that out already. So you'll make that change. All right. Anybody else from the board or from the general public have a question on this? No? Okay. What's the board's pleasure? At this point in time, I would say minus an official list of waivers. We've gone through their response, but again, to mimic everything else and to stay consistent, I'd like to see the waivers, whatever waivers are being requested, to be written out on a narrative so that we can give a final approval to that. But if there are no other outstanding items or questions, I'd like to at least close the public hearing and continue to move forward. I'm not hearing anything, so if that's the case, then, yeah, go ahead, please.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Perfect.
Second.
Motion made and supported to close the public hearing. Hearing no further discussion on that motion, roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins has recused herself from this conversation. So Jim Freites.
Aye.
Chris, you have not mullened in on this yet? No. I don't think you just mullened in on the other one. So Chris, you're going to stay out of it. Kevin Damaris, aye. And Dave.
Aye.
Dave Cross, aye also. Perfect. So the public hearing is closed. So, this is the part where I get to say something a little bit. So, I think in general, a need was identified years ago for this kind of housing. I know we reached out to several people, developers, and it's just thankfully we've got somebody that's brought this into town. And you know, it may not be the exact project that everybody envisioned when we were shown what a PMUD potentially could be, but at the same time, I think it takes a smaller sized parcel, and with the availability of town water and town sewer there, is going to provide a much needed service to our seniors here in town. And if the first meeting was any indication, you know, the amount of seniors that showed up, there were a handful and interested parties, and all spoke highly of this, at least the idea. So I think it's going to be well received by the town. So if that being said, Niles, are you looking for a vote tonight, or were you just looking for the public hearing to be continued, and you want to get through conservation first? You tell me.
That's a good question. I mean, we can continue we're going to be final with conservation. We're probably not going to be in front of the commission until, you know, middle of January anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have no problem well, I guess it depends on how that all plays out, but, yeah, I guess we could continue it until then anyway, just in case there's any
Well, I understand, I understand what you were about to say. We've closed the public hearing now, so we've gotten the bulk of the information that we need. There are minor outstanding items that we've discussed that you've either provided or can provide in response to our inquiries tonight. And I would say that at the end of the day, if there's another permitting authority within town that forces some sort of change, we're going to assume that it's a change for the better, and obviously, unless it's a wholesale, you got to change what you're doing, and I don't believe that's going to be the case, obviously, from the review that EPG has done. It seems that you are going to meet most of the stormwater deal, that we would just require you at the time to provide us with some sort of as-built. So I think with the public hearing being closed and you just opening up your public hearing for Concom, that's going to be, you said, mid to late January?
I guess it depends on when the commission is meeting. That's what I'm not sure about. I have, honestly.
Okay, so I think the commission is either going to meet, well, that's not helpful. I'm looking at December's calendar, so I'm not 100% either. So I guess what I'm saying is, since we've closed the public hearing, we can either wait for an official vote until our next meeting's not until January 19th, and you can have us provided with that. Or I would certainly entertain a motion tonight that we approve the plans with the revisions in most recent, and with the condition that the waiver requests be approved by the board, and that any changes that we asked to be made, i.e. the narrative that we asked to add or anything like that, that be provided to us prior to endorsement. So
I would be okay with that motion, Mr. Chairman, and because.
Well, I kind of figured the applicant would be, I'm just curious if the rest of the planning board would be.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, do we have the required votes to do that? I believe we need
four votes. We have 4 votes.
And the Mullen rule?
We have me, you, Jim, and Dave. That's 4 votes.
Okay. Thank you.
So I believe that and I looked into this, and I believe that we meet it. The reason why we couldn't do it last time is that we didn't have enough members that could actually be involved with this. Jim couldn't be here. It's just that simple. So the only difference is tonight is Jim is here. So Jim can take part in this. And he's been part of all the public hearings. So, yes, it's a very good question, but Chris and I looked into it to make sure that we were squared away. So I heard somebody say that they were okay with what I had said relative to the motion. If that's the case, then I would like somebody to make that motion. Again, approve the plans, the recent plans, but conditional upon a final waiver list being supplied to us and the outstanding items, and we all know what they are, and the applicant does, because this has been recorded, so we can go back. So I won't reiterate them, but whatever outstanding items are provided to us prior to endorsement.
So move.
Second.
Motion's made and supported. There is no further discussion on the motion. I will call a roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Thank you. Bob Joes, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Deb Robbins has recused herself again, just for the record. Chris has not been mullened in on this, so, yet. So Kevin Damaris states aye. Dave Croce.
Aye.
So that passes basically unanimously. It's the 4. You need 4, minimum 4 votes, positive or affirmed votes for a special permit, which gives it a higher level or degree of scrutiny, whereas other things are just a simple majority. So Well, I would say this, we're not gonna be meeting with this planning board stuff, till the 19th again. So you've got some time to prepare whatever final documents or that we've asked you to, or waiver lists. And then in the meantime, apply to Concom and we'll have Victoria get back to you with a meeting date to let you know where we stand there, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Have a good
Holy,
night.
this look, yeah, you also. Be safe, my friend.
Same to you.
It's a long meeting. Okay, next on our agenda, we have a public hearing. This is a brand-new public hearing, so this is a public hearing for a proposed definitive subdivision. This is, entitled, Locust Acres. It shows the creation of 3 lots at 3 Locust Street. And this, for folks, you may remember, this application came in a while ago, I think 6, 7 years ago now. But and it was approved, but no construction was done. So unfortunately, through lack of construction and movement on the project, it expires. So they're here tonight to, I guess, reapply. So before we get into that, I would like a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
Kevin, I'm coming back in too.
I apologize, Deb. Yes, thank you very much. Let the minutes reflect and that Deborah Robbins is now rejoining the board. Thank you, Deb. So I'll take that motion right quick.
So moved.
So,
Did I hear a second too?
Second.
Perfect. Motion's been made and seconded, so roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. I think that's the most tedious thing about this whole thing. And Dave, apologies to you, but you can't vote on this one, my friend. So, okay. So, do we have the applicant and/or their representative here?
Yes.
That's right, Steve. You're still here, huh? Wow.
Enjoying the entertainment this evening.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Folks, again, on the website, you can access these plans, and they are the Locust Acres plans. There's an existing condition plan, street plan, pavement plan, but it's all there. And Steve, if you would, if you're going to be citing a plan sheet, just let us know what sheet it is so we can follow along.
Of course.
All right.
So again, Steve Gioso with SciTech, presenting the applicant here this evening, and the applicant is on the call as well. There's a specific question there. As the chairman indicated, this is a project that the planning board approved in, actually, his memory very good, 2013, so 7 years ago. It is a proposed 3-lot development consisting of the applicant's existing home, which, if you're looking at the overall definitive plan, so the standalone property plan, you'll see the overall property. There is the larger of the 3 lots, lot 3 is where the applicant's existing home is. This is overall a 12.5-acre site. And that the plan was to create improvements to Sammy's Lane, which runs along the border of the property. And again, you'll see that on the drawing at the bottom of the sheet. And do a level of improvement to that way that at the time the planning board agreed would meet the standards for adequate improvements, for pavement, for servicing the existing home on lot 3, and then also lots 1 and 2 that would be created as part of the subdivision. And again, so much time has lapsed since the approval. The covenant had a timeline restriction. The board was kind enough to grant the applicant, I believe, 1 or 2 extensions to the covenant. And during the time period since the original approval, the applicant has had some starts and stops with various contractors who were being brought on board to complete the road improvements, and the road improvements consisted of fixing the existing paved surface to today's standards, widening it to a uniform width of, I believe, 16 feet of pavement, creating a little turnout area, and replacing some culvert and eliminating some culverts that were put in without a permit along the roadway, and then also improving the main culvert crossing to meet today's standards for that type of stream crossing. As I started to say, we've had a couple of contractors who were really close to starting the work. We actually had discussions with one probably about 2-3 years ago who had actually gone so far as to submit shop drawings to us for review for the culvert construction and some of the other elements that would be needed to complete the construction. And then they just walked away from the deal, left the owners high and dry without proceeding. And then they were forced to try and find another person to come along and take on the project. They have, in fact, found somebody who has expressed an interest in completing the road work and developing the 2 undeveloped house lots. But as, again, we've indicated early on, the project did not proceed quick enough, and therefore we're basically back with the planning board at square one to hopefully get you to re-review the plan if you're still comfortable with what was previously approved. Nothing has changed. We did not modify the approved plan in any way. Any of the conditions and restrictions that were listed on the plan at the time still remain. The number of lots, the dimensions, the shape, the road improvements, all of that remains exactly previously approved. We're not any regulatory changes that would trip us up and require to make additional modifications. So what we're looking for is the board to reissue similar approvals in the covenant and hopefully allow the applicant to proceed again where they do have an individual who is interested in both lot and the road improvement component of the project. So that's pretty much it, where we stand and looking for from this board this evening.
Okay, I have a quick question because I was able to go back and look at the other plan. It was brought to my attention that things have changed, and the road layout, I think, on the original plan was 40. This one's only 20. It looked like the lot sizes changed. Is that true or not? Was I not reading the right thing? Could you clarify that for me?
Okay, so the right-of-way being created for Sammy's Lane is actually dimensioned on that cover sheet I just referenced. The definitive plan is 42 feet. So no, that's still a 42-foot right-of-way being created there, and that has not changed. And then the paved surface, which is shown on the construction plan, which is sheet 2 of 3. Again, nothing on that cross-section has changed. The board had agreed to a 42-foot right-of-way and 16 feet of paved surface. Right now, the paved surface is somewhat narrower than that. And if you recall, we had actually done some pavement testing with, at the time, it was SW Cole, who was the reviewer. And they actually, I think, completed the soil corings and the pavement corings so that we could confirm what was below the existing paved surface since it had not been inspected. And that's how we arrived at the cross-section that's shown on that sheet 2 that I just referenced.
Okay, so this is where I'm gonna be. If you look at, we're looking at sheet 2, the pavement plan, sheet 2, right? Yes. And you would see the roadway layout, correct? And that's the 2 parallel lines, right?
Correct. 40.
Okay.
Yes.
So on this plan, it shows that the wetlands go into the roadway layout up to the stone wall, right?
Correct.
Okay. So now if we go to the Locust Acres plan and you look at that location, none of the wetlands on that plan are in the road layout. So do you see where now I'm kind of,
No, if I look at the definitive plan, it's, the wetlands are in the road layout. If you look at, lot 2.
really?
Yeah, I see it right up to the wall into the layout. So I don't know whether it doesn't show up on that plan or not, but that you have.
I mean, I'm looking at what was presented to us on the PDF, I'm assuming, and it's what is on our website. And so I'm looking at Sammy's Lane variable width.
Yep.
And it would appear on the, I'm going to say because, well, on the south, you can see, I'm talking lot 3 specifically, you can see the stone wall.
Yeah.
That's the, right. And then just above that, where the linear direction in degrees are, the linear feet in the degrees are, you see the sea line. And are you saying that 615-foot length there is not representing the width of Sammy's Lane?
Yeah, what I'm saying is where the sea line is, that's the wetlands line. So that is the wetlands extending into the right of way. That sea line that you're seeing there, and now you go back to the road construction plan. That's beyond the limit of sheet number 2. You'd actually have to go to sheet number 3. And so that wetlands is depicted exactly the same in both cases, but keep in mind, that sea line is beyond the area that the board required the applicant to improve the road surface.
Right.
So the board required the road surface to be improved up to about 700 feet from Locust Street. And then at that point, it became basically the existing right-of-way driveway that serves the applicant's existing home. Nothing there changed from the original design plan that was approved by the board. These are the exact plans that were endorsed originally. All we did was give you a clean new print without the endorsement signatures on the plans. I mean, we obviously can give you copies of those endorsed plans because we do have them in our files. If it's something you don't have handy at the town hall, but essentially nothing.
No, I mean, I think we looked up on the registry of deeds, and I'm just going back to the first, and Steve, I'm really not trying to be argumentative. It's already gone on freaking long enough tonight. We're already 2 hours into this meeting.
Yep.
You know, but I'm just looking at, I'm looking at the proposed plan here, and Sammy's Lane, I don't see anywhere on that where wetlands goes into, and maybe it's just a matter of scale, Steve, so correct me if but I'm looking at, you know, where lot 2 begins and lot 3 ends.
Yep.
Or, you know, you're going down that road, there's no wetlands in the roads.
It's shown as wetlands on I'm looking at the definitive plan, the print of the definitive plan. That was submitted. It shows wetlands in the road. And I'm looking at the construction drawings, and it's clearly showing wetlands in the road.
Excuse me, Steve?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I mean, Kev, would it make it easier if he shared the plans with you? Would that be easier for you, Kev, that you guys could?
Yeah, I might be able to share my drawing, and I have it queued up. So if you give me the opportunity.
Sure, but here's what I'm looking at. So for clarity, I'm looking at, this is the definitive plan of Locust Acres, date May 29th, 2012. What the heck is that?
This is the drawing. This is the drawing signed by my surveyor. This is the definitive.
Yeah, from 2012. So you're doing screen share. I'm going to go out there and see.
Yep.
You got it on.
I unmuted so you can talk through my mic.
Well, Steve, here's the deal. That's not what I have.
Oh.
That is not what is on our website, and maybe it's just, I don't know. We'll have to check.
Okay.
Can you go over and show me that that's the plan date on that? Did you make a copy from something else, or is this the original?
This is the original. So it's dated May 29th. You can.
Yeah, that's not the same plan that we have on our website.
Okay, I'm not sure how that is, but.
I'll be right back.
No, that's all right. You can go on our website, and check it out ourselves, but it definitely, it was pointed out to us, the width has changed, it's, I don't know.
All right, so we're gonna want clarity on that. Anyways, if I apologize, I'm just looking at what's on our website, and it's different than what you have, so.
I see. So this will at least give you the better understanding. This is the plan.
Absolutely, yep.
That we're looking to, it's exactly what was originally approved.
Yeah.
And obviously you need to be comfortable with that before you proceed. So I understand that. And so, but that is what has been approved, and we are not looking to change any of the dimensions, not by one inch, not by a fraction of an inch. The intent is to get the board to be comfortable with re-endorsing the original plans that were part of the approved set back in 2013.
Yeah, which is why when it was pointed out to me and I was looking at some of these, I went, why? I thought we had agreed just to come in with the very same plans that we had approved before. And it was, you know, in my opinion, again, one member, it's a no, if we have approved them before, and it's just whatever reason, construction follies, it didn't allow to, then, you know, ultimately,
yeah, I'm looking at the plan you have. That is not the plan that we're looking to get endorsed. So this is the one I have on the screen is the correct one. We obviously want you to reapprove what was previously approved.
Yeah, and so just in fairness too, because obviously the public hasn't been able to see this either, and it's different. So I think you'll appreciate the fact that you may not get any kind of emotion on this until we can confirm that. And I believe you, Steve, and you know me, I don't push back that much, but obviously what I was looking at was different than what you were showing us, so.
Clearly, right.
Okay.
And I understand. When I'm looking at the construction plans, those are all exactly the same with the 40 foot, with the wetlands in the right of way. So no, there's no question.
Yeah. That's why I was scratching my head. So, all right.
So it seems like just that one sheet is the incorrect sheet that's been put on the website, that the correct plan is the May 29th, I think, whatever, I think that was the date you had cited, and that is, and it should be revised, it should be revised through February 6, 2013, and that was the only change that was made, and those were part of the public hearing process.
Perfect. Okay, so I and again, just brief history. How this all came about was because of the floods that we had back in I believe 2010, right? Or 11. And then unfortunately you had the road washed out, and so this is in response to that. There was some emergency repairs done at the time. Unfortunately, some bad advice was given to them, and some of the things weren't done, I think, up to minimum standards. And so, yes, the improvements as proposed, we took those in consideration and we approved it last time. And so I know we did have some public interest in this. So if there is anybody from the public here that would like to comment or have a question, feel free to do that. Chris, again, if somebody is doing their electronic hand raise, can you let me know and we can call on them?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Mr. Chairman.
Hi.
This is Robert Wally. I'm an adjacent property owner at 5 Locust Street.
How are you, Mr. Wally?
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
I just have a couple concerns and then a couple questions for the SciTech representative.
Okay.
My concerns are, the area is a very wet area. And I'm worried about the impact on the surrounding property, one of which is mine at 5 Locust Street. The other is Locust Street itself. During heavy raining, the street drain is very often not capable of keeping up with the water. And I'm worried about the impact on Locust Street flooding and the backup water on my property at 5 Locust Street. And then a couple questions I have for Steve. Will this require the relocation of any wetlands? And if so, where is that on plans anywhere that we could review?
Let me put, if I can share my screen again, that might make it easier to answer the questions.
Sure.
Let's go back to. All right, so this may not be the best drawing. Yeah, this is probably a good drawing. So to answer the last question you had, there's no proposed wetland alteration on this project. So the work is essentially in the buffer zone to the wetlands, and that wetlands that you see that does extend into here, we would not be extending into that. We'd be working close to it, but not into the wetland itself. So there is no replication required for the completion of this project. I'm trying to gauge where 5 Locust is. Are you?
It's right. Oh, you were just there.
You at the top of the drawing or the bottom of the drawing?
The top.
Okay, so you're up in this area here.
Correct.
The way the road design is set up, and let me see if I should have the other drawings on here, but maybe not. The way the road design is set up is we have a cross slope to the driveway. So the drainage drains onto the applicant's property, and the general flow is in this direction down below the site through this area and through this area here. So it's actually draining away from your property down portions of the site here. And we're not bringing the water back out to Locust Street. So what happens is with the cross slope, we have a cross slope back into the applicant's property to allow the water to just shed off and not focus in one location. And then there are existing pipes under the road here that would be replaced as part of the improvements. And again, that design was part of the original project approval. So there's a culvert going in here to replace, I think there's 3 or 4 pipes here now, and we're replacing it with a single culvert. There are some existing pipes here, so we're going to remove those pipes. What that's going to do is allow us to slow the water down in this area here, close to the road, so that we're not increasing the runoff to the down gradient properties. There were some other pipes that were put in close to Locust Street here, which are actually going to get removed. And then there's an existing driveway culvert right here at the beginning that would be maintained. So we're not going to block the flow of water along the street line here. That's going to continue unimpeded. And from a grade standpoint, we're probably about 10 feet lower property up here. Okay, I see your name here. So we're about 10 feet lower than your property. So there's no runoff being directed in your direction on this project.
Right, but I mean, the land, the proposed property and my property is very wet, especially during heavy rains.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, has there been any type of environmental impact on how the construction and the subsequent structure is going to impact future ponding of water for Locust Street and on my property?
So there's 2 things. Number one, yes, there was a Conservation Commission review of this project, and there was a permit issued under the conservation regulations for this project. So it had and has received Conservation Commission approval. So there was a permit allowing this work to occur through conservation review, and they looked at stormwater as part of their review. The development of these lots is not currently before this board or any board. Well, I guess it's currently before the Conservation Commission, but they have tabled it until the road issue gets resolved. But that will require a review, and there's a public hearing scheduled for that. And when that occurs, there'll be, I will do a presentation on the specifics of the lot. But again, the short answer to your question, the water is directed into the wetland system, which drains away from your land. There is no potential for it to back up this far up the hill, just because of the size of the gradient here and the elevation of the road, so that this road is going to overtop before the water backs up to your property. But your land is wet, as is the applicant's. That's what these 2 parallel lines kind of represent wetlands that flow through this area. Then there's a broader or bigger wetland that exists in this area. Again, the gradient of the property is such that there is no potential for backing up onto your land.
Even when a structure is built on that property? I mean,
That's correct.
I mean, okay.
That's correct. Yep.
Any other questions, Mr. Wally?
That's all I have for right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you. Yep. Were there any other interested parties or folks that had any questions? Yes, Steve, it was approved years ago, and don't know if that conservation permit is still in effect. I think there was some extensions requested, but I'm unsure. But to your point, yes, given these areas, there's going to be notices of intent needed to be filed on these lots. So there will be a subsequent review. And the only reason why conservation hasn't taken it up yet, because it's a procedural thing. If the lots don't actually exist because the original subdivision plan is expired, then what you're actually presented to Concom to approve doesn't actually exist. Those lots don't either. So it's just a procedural thing at this point in time, and then we will take those up. So once we get through Concom here, planning board here, Steve.
Kevin,
any other questions?
Ms.
Yeah.
Johansson has her, hand
Hi,
raised.
yeah,
Excellent.
again. I am also an abutter to this property. I'm actually directly across the river from this property. I'm concerned about runoff from both the original road development and future building running off into the river.
Okay, so again, as I indicated earlier, there are no houses proposed at this time. That's going to be taken up with conservation under a separate filing. And there'll be details on grading and the utilities and the placement of the driveway and the house. So there will be a public hearing process to look at the specifics of the lot development. What we're really looking for tonight is the creation of the lots and the road improvements. As you know, there is an existing road here now. It varies in width from 12 to 16 feet now. So this is a relatively minor change to the road cross section. It really, the project includes two elements. One, creating a uniform road cross section, but number two, there were a number of pipes installed that allowed more water to go through this site than normally would have. And that occurred, as I think the chairman indicated, back around 2010 when there was some severe storms and the road washed away, and the applicant went in under what he felt was an emergency repair and did the repairs, but in the process put in some culverts that were not authorized by planning or conservation. So part of this project is eliminating those culverts, which are going to then allow this site to function more as it normally did, which is as a partial detention retention area. So these wetlands in the areas basically to the north of Sammy's Lane will now act as a little bit more of a retention buffer area for the flow. And it's actually going to help the down gradient river flows that run through the area. So we think with these improvements, we're eliminating, I'm looking at the construction plan, and I apologize, I can't load it for you, but those plans, I believe, are on the town website, because that's what I'm looking at right now, sheet 2 of 3. If you start near Locust Street, we're actually proposing, and it calls out for the removal of, it looked like 12-inch high-density polyethylene, a 15-inch high-density polyethylene, an existing 2x2 culvert, a 12-inch, and another 12-inch high-density polyethylene. So we got about 4 or 5 pipes coming out. There were some PVC pipes that also needed to be capped. So there's quite a bit of drainage change, but they're all to the positive, where they're going to actually limit the amount of water that flows off this site.
Yeah, because there's actually been quite a bit of erosion
Yeah.
from the runoff on that that side of the river.
Yeah, I can imagine that, yeah.
Which is what originally got our attention many, many years ago when you say what's happening, and I followed it back, and that's what it was. And yes, you either had failure of drainage structures, failure of actual road construction, which led to that. And so at the end of the day, I think when we did the original approvals, it was determined that this was a much better product than what was there, and a much better, well thought out process by which the engineering was done, because, well, on the first go around it was done, you know, so. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. If not, what's the board's pleasure? We can continue this just to make sure that we get affirmation that the plan that they've submitted today is the same as the one that was there before. I mean, I believe it is, but just, it's up to the board what you want to do with this.
When would you like to be continued to?
Well, if it's just a question of confirming the cover sheet of the definitive plan, if you could, I know you don't want to add anything to your next meeting because of the time involved, but it sounds like it's really more of an administrative check to make sure that what we have for the definitive plan is the same plan you previously viewed. I'm looking at, again, on the town website, the construction plans are clearly the correct construction plans. So those are definitely posted on the site. And so I obviously we'll defer to the board on your scheduling. I know you've got, you know, the holiday seasons to deal with here. So at your mercy, I suppose.
Bob, we only have one thing on for the 5th, and again, if I'm hearing the board, or if anybody wants to speak to this, if the only outstanding item is just confirmation of that one issue, I would have no problem continuing it to the 5th just to discuss that, okay? Because I think the bulk of that meeting is gonna be spent on the bylaw. It's just interesting, Steve, and I'm just gonna say this out loud. And just make a note that, you know, subdivisions, 4 lots and under don't really require, this is the state saying this, not us, but don't require stormwater management or the entirety of it. I guess it's a best management practices kind of deal. Additionally, that lot 1 that you have on there, that's a Form A lot. And so I just, do you have 175 feet, that lot 1 on Locust, what do we call it?
Yeah, it actually
Locust
has
Lake?
216 feet on Locust. So you're right. Technically, it would qualify as a Form A lot.
Okay,
but it is part of the subdivision because we instead of fragmenting the project when it was originally put forward back, we did roll it all together. But you're right. Technically, it looks like, and it actually functions as a Form A lot.
Well, the reason why I say that is because if that's the case, I know that we can under our subdivision control law, create a lot on this with its legal frontage on the new road, and that's why I'm trying to get a little picayune here, is that we can do that without having the requisite frontage, but there's got to be some sort of documentation relative to that. And so why it wasn't caught on the first go around, I really don't know. But I'm looking at it now and saying, what is the question we're being asked to create this road? And by doing that, we're creating lots on this road. So I'm just wondering if there isn't some way that you want to remove lot 1 from the actual subdivision, if that's not cleaner, considering you're not even proposing to get access through your legal frontage. Because your legal frontage now would be, according to this plan, would be created on this Locust Acres Road.
Well,
so
the lot it's a corner lot in a development.
Yeah.
And its legal frontage, in my opinion, would be on Locust Street with secondary frontage on Sammy's Lane.
Okay.
The proposal would be to access on to Locust Street through the legal frontage. In fact, you actually see on sheet 2, we've kind of sketched in the proposed driveway location. Apparently that was
Right.
something that just to show the first time around to demonstrate that we were going to access through the legal frontage. So the advantage to the applicant of a Form A or pulling it off as a Form A would be that it wouldn't be subject to the covenant.
Mhm.
But they have a single buyer for the 2 lots, and he has agreed to construct the roadway. And so therefore, there is no penalty, if you will, to the applicant to have both lots covered under the covenant.
Okay.
So you're right. It could have been handled as a separate application. I think at the time, and I'm going back to 2013, where the board was more concerned with the drain pipes put in without a permit and getting that resolved, that they really didn't want to give the applicant a benefit associated with the road improvements without making the entire land subject to those restrictions and modifications. So we're still live with those restrictions.
All right, so if that's the, and I'm not, you're right. There was some discussion about that, but what I'm gonna do in the interim is whatever we have to do, I just need to make sure whatever documentation that we sign off on is squared away. So, Chris, between now and the 5th, or actually sooner if you could, let's review what our bylaw and subdivision control states relative to that. And if there are any kind of minor hoops or narratives or something that the applicant must provide us to demonstrate that, then that would be, I think that we should have that. And once we do, then I think we could move on the 5th.
So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing to January 5th at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
Second.
Motion made, supported. If there's no further discussion on the motion, I will do a roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Debbie Robbins.
Aye.
Bob Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Passes unanimous. Steve, thanks for hanging around. We'll see you on the 5th. Be safe. Have a Merry Christmas.
You too as well.
All
Thank
right,
you very much. Good night.
You're welcome. Sorry, folks, we're 2.5 hours into this public hearing. We've got a couple more things to go here, so I'm going to ask applicants and attendees to keep that in mind. Many of us have not even been home to have dinner yet, so. So now, item number 8, this is a definitive subdivision public hearing. And again, we're opening the public hearing tonight, Chris, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is a public hearing for a definitive subdivision plan entitled GM Way. It's a minor public road located, 7 lots to be located off of 3 Friend Street in Assonet. I'll entertain a motion to waive the public hearing notice, the reading of the public hearing notice.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, no discussion, roll call. I'm getting a little punch drunk here, so, Jim Freites,
Aye.
Bob Joes,
Aye.
Deb Robbins,
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Oh, I can't answer for you, Chris. Chris, do you say aye, buddy?
Aye.
Thank you. So, okay, do we have the applicant and their engineer here? Again, folks, if you are joining us from the general public and you're interested in this, God bless you for sticking around this long. You will find these on our website and GM Way definitive subdivision plans. So the applicant or their representative is here, right? Byron?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Byron
thanks for
Holmes,
sticking around.
Holmes Engineering.
Hi, Kevin. Jim Resendes
Hi.
and Resendes are on.
Gentlemen, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Good. Okay.
So you want to go over a little bit on what's going on here then?
Yeah, if obviously I'm privy for brevity's sake. This is still in peer review through environmental partners. There are some outstanding items that need to be taken a look at on this. and EPG is going to do that. There may be an issue of funds, whether we've received them or not. I'm hoping that staff can get that taken care of and cleared up in the next day or two. But this is the first public hearing, so again, if you just would like to, briefly introduce us to the project, we may open it up to a couple questions from folks, and then usually we get in the meat and potatoes once we get the initial engineering review and your changes and or remarks back on that. So feel free, Byron, to make a brief presentation if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, we'll go over it for the benefit of everyone that's not familiar with it, what's proposed here. And we'd also like to discuss 3 or 4 waivers for the project. This is a 43-acre site at the intersection of French Street and North Main Street. It's a proposal to put 7 lots on the 43 acres. The first 3 lots, as you come in off of the main road, would vary in size from 1.8 to 2.2 acres. And then lots 4 through 7, which all would have frontage along the Asona Bay portion of the property. They go from 3.5 to 17.9 acres. There's a 1,000-foot road with a cul-de-sac at the end. Sidewalks on one side is required. There are extensive wetlands on the site to the south. They're shown on the plan and they've been reviewed by the town's consultant, Environmental Partners. There's no, as far as the bordering vegetated wetlands, I don't believe there's any change to that was requested. We've submitted them some additional information on the Rivers Act that's involved. And the main situation here is the fact that we have a land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is the backup of the elevation 14, that's the flood elevation. So Environmental Partners is reviewing some backup information we gave to them on the definition of that particular flood elevation. The waivers that we're looking for, the first, you can see this overall subdivision on sheet 3 of the subdivision plans. There's at lot 7, you can see a 15-foot strip that runs down along the north side of the roadway. The regulations, rules and regulations say that those reserve strips are not normally allowed. The applicant's requesting that 15-foot in order to give a little bit more buffer to the property to the north, 7 French Street. So that'll allow them to put some buffer plantings and landscaping along there and give a little bit more privacy for there, and also keep the traffic a little further away from their property. So that would be a waiver that we'd be requesting from the board. Another waiver would be the maximum length of a dead-end street. Your regulations normally look for 750 square feet. We've got 1,028 to the middle of the cul-de-sac. We still have no more lots than we would get with 750 feet. We've just spread them out a little bit more to provide larger lots, especially that lot 7 that's almost 18 acres. One of the other 2 waivers we would be requesting is sidewalks. You normally require them to go around the cul-de-sac. We would stop them at the beginning of the cul-de-sac, mainly because there's only the 1 lot there anyway. It's not like you have 2 or 3 lots on the cul-de-sac, just the 1 on that frontage. And then the other one is one that's being looked at by the Conservation Commission and Environmental Partners now, and that's the flood elevation. Under the Wetlands Act, if it's a land subject to coastal storm flowage, which means it's going into tidal waters, you do not need any retention or detention ponds or anything to mitigate that flow. But that being said, your regulations also require that. So once that's resolved with Environmental Partners and the Conservation Commission, the applicant would be asking for a waiver on that and a waiver on filling the floodplain, because that's not required when it's tidal action. So that kind of in a nutshell is what we're proposing. Certainly be either Jim or Ken or myself would be happy to answer any questions or comments you have.
I'll open up to the general public if anybody has any questions or comments. Again, Chris, please let me know if somebody's got their electronic hand raised. Really? Okay. Nobody trying to get my attention, Chris?
Not that I can see by anything, so.
Perfect. Okay, all right. So, thank you, Byron, for presenting this to us, and appreciating the position that we're in after 2.5 hours. But at the same time, I don't want people to think that this is not getting a thorough review and won't continue to get one. It is being reviewed by Environmental Partners, a very capable outfit that operates on our behalf at the applicant's expense. You briefly mentioned a couple waivers, and I have no problem, in theory, with most of them. I understand the unresolved conservation issue relative to your, the stormwater and tidal and all, and that's going to get resolved. But the so-called spite strip, or what I don't, given where it is, and I don't have an issue, and I do. At the end of the day, I think I appreciate, and probably the property owner, adjacent property owner, appreciates any kind of efforts to, maybe offset any kind of potential impact that this might have.
I think probably the reason you have that, and you're right to call it a spike strip, normally it's so that if anybody is abutting, they would be able to have access to a public road later on. As you can see from the layout of the house, that's not going to be possible to have another lot in there anyway. And this does give another 15-foot of buffer. So we think it protects that abutter to the north rather than spites them.
Well, I think it serves, multiple purposes. If that lot is not created using this and they're not enjoying the frontage, let's just get, snow plow and whatever the case may be. Yes. So I'm amenable to it. We're not going to vote on that tonight. Obviously, we've got much more review to do. As far as me personally, the length of the road, again, the idea, and I'm glad you pointed it out, but the length of the road, why we require certain construction is because the volume of traffic. So what you're saying is you can only fit typically on an 850-foot road, you can only put about 7 house lots anyway, and that's all you're getting.
Right.
So, but I think I'd like to fortify that promise or that statement that you're making. So I'm wondering if there isn't any kind of document that, whether it's a narrative, whether it's a plan that's got something on it that can be recorded so that in years to come, we don't end up finding out that big old lot 7 there with their 18 acres has decided to come in and create 3 more lots. And so what we've done is, unfortunately, not what was intended. So you don't have to answer tonight if you're not comfortable, but think about that, because I think that goes a long way when you're requesting some sort of waiver like that.
Kevin, we could put
Yes, sir.
a covenant on lot 7 so that it could never be subdivided or used other than one buildable lot.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. I think, again, we're not voting on it, but those are the types of concerns. And when you know the reasons why we have a regulation, oftentimes you can get those addressed. So,
yeah, I don't think we're looking for a vote, Kevin. We're just looking for consensus that is acceptable, because it does make a big difference on whether these plans need to be completely redone or that
right.
We're going in the right direction.
Right. So, if that's the case, do any board members have an issue or take issue with some of the waiver requests? And if need be, I can have Byron repeat them. I know, one of them was the spite strip we talked about. The other one was length of road. I think you mentioned something about the sidewalks, correct?
Right. We wouldn't, right now, we're not proposing to wrap the sidewalk around the entire cul-de-sac. We would stop at the cul-de-sac.
But just what, so, right. And would you be putting that on the southerly side so that?
Actually, the northerly side. It's on the northerly side.
Sidewalk side. But it's on one side or the other. And again,
yes,
this is where our regulations, it's great that there's a sidewalk in a 7-lot subdivision. For all intents and purposes, people won't drive down it. But the sidewalk dumps out onto, North Main Street that doesn't have any sidewalks anywhere. And it's sometimes our rules and regulations, you wonder.
You're not the only town with that problem on sidewalks.
No, I know, but it's just, when you start looking big picture. So So let's go down it. Does anybody have a problem with the spite strip? And I'm just doing this by consensus. I don't need a vote.
I don't have a problem with any waiver.
Okay, how about this? If anybody has a problem, speak up. If you don't have a problem, I'll give you a couple seconds and we'll move on. Length of road, does anybody have a problem with that?
No.
Okay. Sidewalk, only sidewalk on one side of the road like every other waiver we've given. No. Byron, what was the other one?
The pre-construction runoff. That
The
needed to
pre-construction.
attenuate the increase in runoff between the existing and the proposed.
And you're asking us to somehow to make a decision on granting that waiver? Is that what you want that done right now?
Yeah, beyond the Wetlands Act, which we're obviously dealing with the Conservation Commission, your rules and
Right.
regs also require that. So I guess what we'd be looking for is if Conservation Commission and environmental partners and we come to an agreement that it does not have to be attenuated, then we would be looking for the planning board to agree with that.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is, and I know because, again, we had the public hearing last night, and EPG will be reviewing this for us specifically, because that's what we actually asked, that the bulk of their effort be spent on is the wetlands and drainage. So if you're asking by consensus, if through the public hearing process and peer review that the Conservation Commission is in agreement with what your proposals, that the planning board would follow suit. And again, similar to what we did on the other ones, we'd be hard pressed if a deliberative body within our own community votes on to do something, particularly when it comes to land use and land use management, that they felt vital or important, and that we would dismiss that. So I think the same would hold true too, that if they found that a amicable solution is rendered or come to, then I think the other boards should at least have some respect for that. So, so by consensus, again, if you have a problem with that, short of, I'm sorry?
We're all set, Kevin.
Okay, all right. Short of getting into definitions of the attenuating and the tides, and that's why we have Environmental Partners Group. And I'm going to let you guys, I would like to let you guys do a knockdown, drag out and get that taken care of, and then come back to us in overly simplistic terms. I will offer up, and the board has been kind enough to allow me at times, if there are technical discussions that need facilitation, then I will make myself available to meet with both the applicant and our peer review so that everybody is on the same page and everybody understands what's important. And we all understand what they're trying to do. So if I don't hear any pushback on that one also, then I think you can assume, Byron and guys, that your waiver requests, some of them are definitive yes, but they are, at least will be considered given your requests on the stormwater side that we need to review even further. So. Byron, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't think so. We'll just wait until Environmental Partners has a chance to review our response to the initial content, and we'll go from there.
All right. And so what we do, just again for the general public, our peer review, their letters, their review letters are online, and we'll make sure that we continue to put them up. And responses from the applicant engineer. So you can kind of follow along with us as the project's going along. Don't wait for meeting night, because oftentimes this information is going to be provided even prior to the posting of the next meeting. So I don't know if you heard earlier, Byron, our next basically meeting that we can take this up would not be till the 19th of January, given people's schedules, the holiday. And on the 5th, we have a standalone item that we're taking up. So Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Perfect. If there's no other questions right now, I'll entertain a motion that we continue the public hearing for GM Way, it's a minor public road, 3 Front Street, to January 19th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
Kevin, can I just ask, that,
Sir.
to make sure that Environmental Partners is okay to move forward and get this, work done? I mean, I know it's over the holidays, but they need to get the money issue squared away.
Yeah, and Adam, I'll caveat this with this, as long as we've got the money issue taken care of and we're squared away on that, you don't foresee a problem getting this review and something back to them before the next meeting?
No, that should be fine. It's, yeah, as long as we have about 2 weeks, we can normally turn it around.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get we'll make sure we get the check things squared away.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there is no further discussion, did I already entertain that motion? Did somebody make that motion, or did Jim say something first? I'll need that motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and supported. If there's no further discussion on the motion, roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Kevin Damaris states aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Okay. Hey, Chris, McKay, we got that Form L from the assessor's office on this project about addresses and things like that. Can we forward that off to the applicant?
Sure.
So that they understand, because they may want to even put those on some of the revised plans. It's the addresses that they've assigned out of the assessor's office. Okay, next on our agenda, it's our last item of the agenda, I believe. So this is a public hearing. It's a new public hearing for a proposed solar array at 12 Forge Road. I'm going to apologize now, folks. We've been at it's almost 3 hours, and I'm a little punch drunk. So I'm going to try and keep this going, and I appreciate everybody's patience. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion made and supported. If no further discussion, roll call. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Deb Robbins, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Whew, I sound tired like me. So, this is a public hearing. I think we've got some interest. Chris, McKay, how many people are still with us?
23 people.
Yeah, well, I guess they stuck around for this too. So, if we could, what we do here is the applicant makes a presentation. Again, this is our first night. It's going to go off a peer review, engineer review, likewise for the Conservation Commission. So typically in the first night, we allow them to make a general presentation. We open it up to questions. Please just get my attention, politely raise your hand, or get my attention. We'll allow you to ask your questions, and then we will continue this to a subsequent meeting after more review is done. You can see these files. They are on our website, and it would be the site plan for 12 Forge Road is what you want to look at. That being said, is the applicant here? I'm looking for the applicant for this. Is anybody here?
Muted.
Muted. Unmute yourself, please. Still nothing? Chris, is he here?
Hi, this is Rich Kabazinski from Atlantic Design. Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me now? I can't hear you. 1 minute, please. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm getting some feedback on something or somebody. It sounds like somebody's running a blow dryer, so if there's anybody doing that, they can...
Can we get a mute also? We can clear it up a little bit.
Yeah, Chris.
Sure.
Mute everybody.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Mr. Chairman, I think you can hear me now.
Six people. All right, people, unmute yourself. All right, I'm still getting a lot of background noise, so. Yeah, I can't, who was that?
Hi, this is Ryan Young from CBE. I think you can hear me now.
Barely. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, well, I can't, okay, so, go ahead, if this doesn't improve, if we can't improve this communication, I'm not comfortable moving. So, go ahead.
Permission to share my screen if I can. I can give a quick presentation. I understand, given the late hour, but I think it would be useful. I know there's some public interest.
Yeah, it's difficult, there's a lot of, is everyone else hearing that distortion in his voice?
Yeah. I think it's on Ryan's end somewhere.
Let me try and call in.
Keith, you got to mute. There's feedback coming in.
Yeah, we got a lot of feedback coming in, like somebody's got a car door or window open, or they're in an air-conditioned place with, I don't know, it sounds like a lot of air movement. Well, that's better, at least. You know, of all the nights, we've been having how many meetings now, and we really haven't had any technical issues? So of all the nights, couldn't be a short meeting night, we gotta have the long meeting night. Bear with us, folks. Chris, where did the gentleman go? Is he calling in? Is that what he said?
Yes, I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ryan's trying to call in.
Thank you.
I'm not what's happening. Is that any better?
No. Is everyone else hearing this? It sounds like he's underwater.
Rich, do you want to speak to us?
Yeah, hi, this is Rich Tabazinski. Can you guys hear me better?
Absolutely, crystal clear. Thank you, Rich.
Okay, well, I guess I can take over for Ryan at this point. He's having some technical difficulties regarding his presentation.
Yeah.
But basically, the project site is a 22.6 acre property off of Forge Road, and it's zoned residential. The existing property itself has surrounded by a series of stone walls. It's mostly wooded, except for one residence located on it with a cleared area and a yard surrounding that residence. There's several wetlands on the property that we did have one Conservation Commission review already with the commission yesterday or last night, as a matter of fact. So that process is underway for work that's within the buffer zone to those wetlands. It's a fairly relatively moderately sloped property, except on the eastern portion of the property is is steeper, and the array design has been taking that into account. But basically, the project is about a 2.7 megawatt ground-mounted solar facility that's proposed on two separate arrays that are at the rear of the property. And we've received the zoning determination letter. That's as of right. Solar facility subject to site plan review, and that's why we're here in front of you guys today. Just briefly, brief description of the site of the project. There's a 20-foot gravel access road that'll be extending in from the existing residential driveway and going up to the equipment pads on the site. There's a total of 4 equipment pads, 3 for the inverters and 1 for the transformer. We also have included a 20-foot access road around the perimeter of the property, but that will be just a grassed area, not a gravel, hard packed gravel access road. It'll just be a grassed perimeter between the fence and the panels, just for access surrounding it. There'll also be a 7-foot security fence surrounding the property with a gap for wildlife passage underneath. There'll also just the utility poles will be provided at the entrance off of Forge Road. There'll be, I believe, 4 or 6 of them in the basically adjacent to the existing residence, and then from there it'll be going underground utilities to service the array. The interconnection is directly in front of the property, right on Forge Road there. So we feel the site's been designed to meet the setback requirements of the bylaw, which in this instance is 50 feet. There will be some clearing outside the fence for shading, to reduce shading impacts. And what we're proposing in those areas is to just basically cut trees down to flush, but leave the stumps, leave understory and ground cover in place, not to disturb to minimize the disturbance to soil and in those areas outside the fence. Stormwater measures are proposed also and also erosion control measures, all shown on the site plan. We have submitted a complete stormwater drainage report, which analyzed various different points where runoff presently is either flowing towards wetlands or flowing towards off-site areas. I believe there's a total of 4 different locations that we analyzed and completed our calculations in accordance with the DEP standards. There's a single detention basin with some grass swales that have proposed to discharge runoff to that basin. We've included stormwater calculations for the 2, 10, and the 100-year storms. And we understand that there will be a peer review of this system, of our design and our plans and the report. And I believe that's underway, but it hasn't been completed yet. So I won't get into the details of the design, and probably really leave that up to your peer review consultant to really go through the technical aspects of it as soon as their review is done. And I believe, we've included everything that's been required of the solar bylaw, including the site plans, electrical plans, system components, a decommissioning estimate, an operation and maintenance plans, as well as other documents that's part of your bylaw. So we believe we have a full, complete submittal. Believe we have a good project in front of you today that has from some adequate screening from the project to abutting properties. And we feel we know you have some peer review work to be done, but we're just here to introduce the project and get some feedback from yourselves and the butters if there's any available. And then we will hopefully be able to address those comments and come back to you at the next hearing with this plan that you deem approvable. So I guess that's it for my presentation. Not sure if Ryan is back or has better communication at this point to describe CVE's role in this project in a little more detail. Ryan, are you on board yet, or?
Yeah, I think I'm here. Everybody can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. Sorry about
Well-
that. I dialed in. Yeah, I mean, Rich really hit it on the head. I mean, we're, like everybody else, we're anxiously awaiting the review from EPG, and I look forward to that. We'll, of course, want to hear the public and the board's comments, but then we'll ask to be continued until the 19th, which is fine by us. Yeah, the only thing I'll say is CVE is looking to develop, finance, construct, and own the project. So we're going to be around for a long time. We want to make sure we are a conscientious and quiet neighbor. We've tried to design the project as conservatively to the site as possible, and we'll be using quiet equipment. And after the construction period, I don't think anybody will really notice that we're there, especially in terms of traffic and noise. With that, I'll leave it at that. My phone number and contact information is in the application. So if any abutters have questions or concerns between the meetings, you should feel free to contact me.
Okay, thank you. So now's the time that I would open it up to the general public or to board members for questions or comments. So Chris, I'm going to expect that you, if somebody's trying to get my attention, please let me know.
Kevin?
Yes?
Yeah, hi. I'm Diane Rodricks. I'm here with my husband, David. We
Hi.
are abutters to the property.
Okay.
And our main concern basically is, currently we have a beautiful view of the forest. And we're concerned that, of course, we're probably going to be losing that. And it will be replaced by solar panels and something that resembles prison fencing. So we're asking basically, first of all, the distance between our property line and where the fencing will begin is 70 feet. And so that's one of the questions we want to know if we're correct on.
This is Rich Tabazinski. I could answer that, I guess, if it's okay.
Please.
Yeah, go ahead. This
Well,
is David Rodriguez, Diana's husband.
Yeah, sure. You're basically located at the, I guess I would call it the rear of the property.
Yes, correct.
And so just a couple dimensions that I can give you. I mean, from your house to the nearest panel is about 250 feet. The panels adjacent to your the fence line up to the stone wall that's in the back of your property there is about average of about 100 feet. It doesn't exactly run parallel to your stone wall, but it ranges from like 80 feet on the south end to, like 120, 130 feet on the north end. So that's the distance from your rear property line to the fence line. So, I believe there's still going to be, even with the development of the project, there's still going to be likely over 100 feet of solid woodland between in the back of your property and where the limit of clearing is on this site. So, because I don't believe your property's cleared all the way to the back line, is it? From what I could see.
No, we have trees between our property, although some of it's thin because of the wetlands. So I guess our concern is there anything that you'll be doing to mitigate the view from our perspective? I mean, I know,
Well,
I recognize, yesterday I think they were talking about pollinating the trees. And I don't know if that was meant pollinating the trees between my property line and the array on our side, do you know? But also, will you be planting any local shrubs or anything like that to fill in over time so that we won't be able to see the array from our property?
We can look at that. We won't be pollinating or clearing right up to your property line. That's definitely not being proposed or anything that we would do. It looks like at a minimum, you'd have probably 60 to 70 feet of vegetation from your rear property line to where the limit of the pollarding or clearing is going to be.
Okay.
And we can look at supplementing that if possible with our client. There's also just another fact is we're probably elevated a little bit higher than your property. Or I see
Yes, it
that
is raised.
on our contour plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a contour plan. You're showing you're at about elevation 130, it looks like, and the array is up at 140, 135 behind your property. So that would lessen the chances of it being visible from your property. But we can look at that a little further and coordinate for you. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we would appreciate it. I want you to know that we are supporters of renewable energy. So, but again, I mean, it's nice to get up in the morning. We've always had coffee in the living room, look out over the trees. We obviously don't want to see the solar panels with something like my wife called a prison fencing, because I know you have barbed wire on top, so nobody can go in. So I don't know how else you describe that.
Yeah, why don't we? This is Ryan from CVEU. If you invite me, maybe we could take a walk together. And
Okay.
I'd just like to point out that the planning board, I know from some previous discussions, prefers a more natural buffer, where I think we as developers want to work with the abutters to provide more what you're talking about, which is a little bit unnatural, but it's a planted screening that protects you. So I think there's some discussion there that we have to have.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, just so folks understand, most oftentimes what's proposed by the applicant is not what's actually approved by the planning board, because the planning board, particularly under site plan review, has the ability to ask for things, and it's more of a legal negotiation with an applicant. They're right, it is by right, but there are certain things that have to be met, and we are becoming more and more aware of, by citing these things throughout our community, of some of the pitfalls and some of the things that we need to pay more attention to, which is, again, why we're trying to change some of these regulations. And I'll just say this in general. There's a reason why there's 23 people still on this call, if I'm correct, Chris. It's because there's a group of interested parties. Not only is this, I will call it a historic local childhood playground to many of the folks my age that grew up in this area. So, there's some sentimental value there. But additionally, you have residents that live around there, not to mention the proximity of both our historical society and the state park, Joshua's Mountain and Profile Rock there. So there is going to be, I think, an extra level of scrutiny given to this project. Just because it's by right doesn't mean it's right in its current iteration. And I have a feeling that there's going to be some substantial changes to this throughout this public hearing process, whether it be in response to our comments, your comments, or the engineer's comments.
Thank you.
So does anybody else have?
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We're just looking for reasonable accommodation.
You are absolutely right, and I appreciate you sitting around and listening to me flap my gums, and I appreciate you taking part in this. So, does anybody else have a question, please?
Yeah, Keith does. He has his hand raised.
Did you say Keith?
Yes, his name.
Okay, Keith. Keith? I'm calling on you. You can unmute yourself if you'd like. I don't know how you're doing it, but all right. Well, hello, Keith.
Yes.
Okay, Keith. Just your name and address for the record, please.
It's Keith Schultz. I'm on 14 Forge Road, directly beside 12 Forge.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So my concern is basically the same as the previous person. I just wanted to know roughly what the distance, between the panels and my property was going to be, because again, you know, I look out my backyard and look up into the woods, and I really don't want to have to look at solar panels.
Right, so the applicant, are you prepared to give this gentleman an answer, or is it something that you would like to review?
Yeah, I would like to review. I think it's 310 feet if I have the numbers correct. in my
I'm
head, but
looking at it, and I don't want to speak for you, but there is a dimension on there that shows 310 feet would appear to the closest array. And again, I'm going to allow my experience to speak here. It's not oftentimes that it's just necessarily array, it's the impact of the project. So you have shown and I will say this as a comment, in a rather busy plan on the scale when we're trying to look at it on the computer, whether it be contours at every foot, or, you know, sometimes there are unnecessary lines on there. Because where you're showing the hatched area for tree clearing and pollarding, and again, that note on your plan needs to be changed because that note says that it's going to be cut flush. So we need to change those notes on the plan because again, you did speak to pollarding, and what that is briefly is it's when they decide they can leave a tree to a certain height, which serves multiple benefits, rather than cutting it all the way down, and it serves as a vegetative buffer, a natural resource for the wildlife, and ground stabilization, yada, yada, yada. So it's got many positive things to it. So, but that area we talked about, it needs to be further defined. So that being said, are there any other questions? Feel free to ask them now.
So, I mean, as far as like, you said 310 feet or whatever to the closest panels, but how far are they going to clear the trees back beyond that toward my property? Like how much actual woods will still be left? Because I know they said they were going to clear some trees because of shading.
Yeah, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but let's we're happy to clarify that, and I'm sure we'll get into that with UPG, and we'll happy to clarify for the next meeting.
Okay.
I want to bring something up.
I think it is demarcated on the plan. I don't have a scale in front of me, so I don't want to misrepresent.
What we typically do, Keith, and for the other abutters, and I would say with some success, is oftentimes we encourage the applicant and the abutters to meet and or talk directly. I find, and we've been told by abutters, that it's a more personable kind of deal, and oftentimes you meet on site, you can take in a better appreciation from where somebody's coming from. And so if there are people that have questions, you can reach out directly. The gentleman has already stated that the information is there and available to you. And we would encourage people to reach out directly with the applicant. Let's face it, they're asking us for approval to put a project in your neighborhood and in our town. And it would behoove them to reach out to the abutters to try to make the best project possible.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Anybody else have another question, please?
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, my name is Paula Cretion.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, I live at 10 Weedamo Drive, which on map 210 would be lot 123. I've lived here about 30 years with my parents, Roger and Marilyn, and my sister Pamela. And I'm speaking on my behalf as well as theirs. We have some very serious concerns, just as the other two callers referred to the aesthetics, you know, what you look at and what you see. It's definitely something that can be a huge detraction from your property value. We've been blessed over the years to be able to go out on our back deck and see some of the most, you know, beautiful things in nature, from the sunset through the forest to, you know, young fawns frolicking in your backyard, et cetera. So there's a lot to be lost as far as aesthetics are concerned. But beyond that, there are some safety issues that really haven't been addressed at all. And because the solar energy is always put out there as this wonderful renewable source of energy, some of the dirtier side of it just doesn't come out. And we know that as I listened last night to the other commission with the protection of the wetlands, et cetera, we all have well water in this neighborhood. And there's some concerns, you know, what if something happens and our well water becomes contaminated? The solar panels contain many toxic agents. Within those glass panels, there's silicon, boron, phosphorus, cadmium, and others. Many of them are cancer-causing toxic agents. And some of the things that have happened, and it's hard to find it all in the news, but it is there. For example, our Attorney General filed a lawsuit in Williamsburg, Massachusetts, for the irreparable damage done to the West Branch Mill River, and it was from a solar farm array. So we know that things do happen in spite of all the safety issues that companies try to put in place. We just don't need something like that in a residential neighborhood, which puts our well water at risk at any given time. And the other safety issue that I have been reading about is fire. Fires do happen with these solar panels for various reasons. And most recently, there was one in California, I guess maybe it was about a year ago. And there are others that have taken place. And yeah, it was in June of 2019. And that particular fire from a solar farm in California burned 1,127 acres. The fire chief out there basically stated that the fire was caused by a bird. And it sounds weird, but he said that the wings touched multiple electrical conductors pretty much at the same time, causing the fire. And that sometimes there's even faulty panels that will cause a fire. And the safety issues and health issues here are a great concern to my family, because for the last 6 years, my mom has been homebound after surgery, which did not work out well for her at all. And mobility issues are a concern. If there was a fire and we had to evacuate quickly because of acreage burning, that's a scary thing. I also have a situation with my sister, who 3 years ago was diagnosed with not one cancer, but 2 types of cancer. And we thank God she's cancer-free right now, and we certainly would like her to stay that way. But contamination to well water with toxic chemicals, or even a fire at one of these solar panels, would put toxic chemicals in the air with the smoke. And so these are huge concerns that we have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. I have a couple, quite honestly, that just jump right off the page, and I wasn't allowed to talk about them last night because that's the Conservation Commission, but and I'm going to be very frank, whether it's the hour or whether it's I've been doing this long enough to know, your proposed access through somebody's driveway on that bend at Forge Road near a railroad crossing for commuter rail, honest to God, I don't know of a word that I can give it, but wow. That's all I can say is wow. I don't know how, it's just, we see what these, we see the amount of vehicular traffic required for construction during these, loading and unloading, bringing in your tree clearing equipment. Unless you can, or you have shown where you have lay down areas, where you have places for that, but I'm being very frank. The idea that you would take a commercial entrance there, go in through somebody's existing driveway that runs right along both of their well sites on a bend, on a 90-degree, well, I won't call it 90, but it's rarely close. Everybody understands that corner. It's got to be the worst one in town. Right next to a railroad crossing. This is not personal, but wow. That's all. That I guess that's my comment on that. and so there, you probably need a hard look at that relative to safety. And we're not just concerned with safety post-construction, we're concerned with safety during construction. And again, these lessons that we learn, increased signage in the neighborhood, requirements for construction details, whether that be police, depending on what the construction going on, there might be a fire detail. So, yeah, it's really, I'm going to use the word remarkable. I've never seen something but anyway, there's extra level of concern that I have, and again, in fairness to the rest of the board, they may have not been privy to seeing all these plans and have not had the opportunity to spend as much time as I have with them. I'm an official fence viewer here in town. I'm also on the cemetery commission, and I just have an affinity for stone walls. So I already find it troublesome that you're going to be taking down some of your interior stone walls. You are well within your right to do, don't get me wrong, but I believe I'm in a good place when I state this, that stone walls that represent a boundary wall or a property line are to be left intact. There is a certain process by which to remove that, and I believe it's a two-party consent. It may even be a three-party consent. I'm not 100%. But
Mr. Chairman, of course,
please.
Point of clarification, I don't think we're proposing to remove any boundary walls.
Yeah, I don't think that you are either, but I'm making a statement, and so that I can be clear.
Yeah, there's no contention there. Of course, we're not.
I would say, to echo what some of the concerns of abutters, yes, we're going to look for whether it's a combination of vegetative screening, whether it's a combination of a fence that is not a prison-looking style fence, quite honestly, and oftentimes we allow the applicant to come up with a reasonable solution to that. If not, they're dictated by the board as to what kind of solution. Keeping in mind to Mrs. I think it was Creason's concerns, this is a by right, so we cannot technically say no to this project. The only way we could say no to it is if they are not accommodating to some of our requests, and then it all depends on how much we want to dig in on that. I think you've heard my concerns on the front entrance, so I don't need to reiterate that. We do, as part of practice and part of the process, 12 sets of plans are submitted to the planning board. They are then dispersed to multiple boards and committees. We are asked for their comments, so the police department gets them, fire department gets them, board of health, building department, assessors, conservation, water and sewer, highway. I might have left a couple people off. But at the end of the day, it's not just our board that's reviewing them. We ask them for comments. So oftentimes we would defer to, if it's a serious fire issue, we would defer to the fire department to point that out to us, so as if there were issues, and they do that on certain projects. Drinking water, well water. Obviously, there are industry standards. Obviously, the applicant has heard what your concerns are, so we're going to expect that those will be addressed in some way, shape, or form at our next meeting. But again, Board of Health has been reached out, and again, Fire Department has been reached out to. And to date, over the past several years, I don't think we've ever gotten a comment relative to that, but I do appreciate you bringing it up because it is something to be concerned about. So, off of initial review, those were two of the things that I noticed that were outside of conservation and stormwater. The other thing that I brought up last night, that if you look at what we'll call the east array, right? That's the moniker we're giving it. So it would be plan view right. There is no drainage proposed, or drainage structures or proposed, and I think what you're seeing is you have abutting and adjoining wetlands, and it needs to be proven out that we're not going to be either starving those wetlands of the vital water that they need, or inundating them with too much and now causing a problem. Additionally, it looks like there may be some locust wetland delineation that needs to be looked at and or demonstrated that the work is outside of the 100 feet. The pollarding, again, I'm going to offer a strong bit of advice that you pollard everywhere that you can. And if that means at the end of the day there is a slight reduction or a reduction in arrays, that should be the first thing to consider when you're doing that. I can appreciate you want to maximize, but I say this on behalf of the town and on behalf of the planning board. Some of these folks are given a gift in that they're allowed to do this, and I say folks, these are residents and property owners in our town, but they're already been given another option short of putting in another subdivision and more houses. Town recognized years ago that as a financial study was done and what we really looked at costs, that these are more beneficial and less costly to the town than a regular subdivision. But that doesn't mean it's a wholesale approval, go in and do what you want to do. So, which is why I'm adamant on that entrance that you have over there. There is going to be, you are going to have to demonstrate to me to the nth degree the safety and how that's going to be maintained to get construction vehicles in. Given the size of this, I'm going to assume that we're talking at least a 6-month, if not 8-month construction, maybe a little bit longer. So, yeah.
I don't think that's correct. We'd like to respond more officially, but yeah, I think it'll be shorter than that. And we'll look forward to the fire departments and police chiefs' comments on that. And we're happy to provide a police detail during construction. So I think that can be addressed.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you heard what I said.
I hear you. Yes.
And I'm only one, but that was one of the items. You know, police detail aside, you've got construction vehicles pulling out within feet of an existing house. And so what we've done, even for house lots that were just adjacent to the construction entrances, is we required fencing to be put up by the and all to make it a safe environment. So I appreciate you saying you'll get construction details and all, but at the same time, that really, I hope the board looks at that and gives it some consideration.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that we're clear that the landowner, it's a little bit different situation than the one you've just constructed, because it's not on a butter's house. It's the landowner and our partner who we're working with, whose house is right there. So I don't want the public or anyone else thinking that there's a neighboring house right next to the access road.
No. This is the property owners. You're right for today.
Right.
And then when the property owner moves away and you know, somebody else moves in, no, I mean, I'm not going to allow my concerns for and again, this might be the late hour talking, but I'm not going to allow my concerns for safety to be diminished simply because it's the landowner's home. I don't think that somebody gets hurt. It's no solace that it was the landowner and nobody else. So I'm gonna.
Quick question.
Yes,
the applicants removing the house, or the house planning on staying in the house and using it as dual use of residence and a solar farm, commercial solar farm?
Yes, I mean, I can't speak for them directly, but as far as I know, they have no intention of moving. This is part of their plan. They're, you know, willing partners in this project, and they've sort of entered into this knowing that they'll be there for a while. Certainly, yes, if somebody else purchased the property, and to be clear, it's the back lot and the solar, the community solar area is not going to be subdivided from the parcel. So if they were to sell the land, the new owner would be purchasing the property and the project and with everything that comes with it, not diminishing the safety at all. I just wanted to be clear, and we'll make sure that's all covered. Safety is the utmost important to us, but just want to be clear that you know, it is the landowner that his house is right there by the access.
No, that's a fair point to make, and if I was unclear on that, I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, quick question:
Please.
How does our bylaw speak to mixed use in this situation where you have a commercial solar farm on I know it's allowable use in a residential zone, but I've never seen where both residential and commercial is on the same lot before. I don't think we've done that anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to think off the top of my head. The only one I can maybe think of might have been one of the very early ones. It was a small one on, and I don't even know why we got involved with it on Locust Street. That might have just been conservation. I'm not really sure, quite honestly, and you're right. I think that's going to be part of what Environmental Partners does is reviews it. Now, obviously, I don't know off the top of my head, but it certainly raised my curiosity, because you're right. It's not, usually it's an adjacent lot, or this is part of my greater parcel. I'm chopping off my house lot, and here this lot's going to be used. It's not that you are, whether it's the applicant's house or not, that you're going to be utilizing existing residential driveway as your main construction entrance and egress for this. I have to go back out there and see. There's an existing stone wall at the front of this with a shed that's right up against the property line. I don't even know how, if you can get the turning radius there for tractor trailers. I'm pretty sure it can be done, but it's just going to have to be demonstrated out. So I'm hoping that the applicant, their engineers, and their representatives are hearing that area, huge concern. Anybody else from the board have anything?
Kev, I'll agree with you on the traffic. And I travel that road going to my past residence. You literally have to cross the traffic pattern as you go around that corner just to get around that corner. So.
Right.
It's
yeah. So if it sounds like I'm going over the top, it's because I am.
No, that's a bad.
I think we're all. Yeah.
Kevin, someone named Mike has their hand raised virtually.
Okay, Mike, just your name and address for me, bud.
It's me, Mike.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, Mike McHugh, South Hillside. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, kids. I just wanted to bring to your attention, I know you mentioned the boundary wall, and one of the representatives, and I apologize, I can't remember who, said that they were not proposing to remove a boundary wall. But on sheet 5 of 7 on their plans, they do call out that they plan to remove what is a boundary wall. They have a stone wall that is a boundary between this property and Profile Rock, which they have labeled stone wall to be removed.
Let me take a look. Go ahead.
That's a mislabel on the plan. There's a stone wall that's interior that will be removed, and that's where that label should be. I apologize for that, but that's an incorrect label on our plan.
Okay, that was a concern of mine.
Hold on. I want to get clarity on this, Mike, because there are 2 separate lots, is there?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like it was mislabeled on the plan. We can clarify definitely for the next meeting, but in the area he's talking about between the landowner's property and Profile Rock, there's a stone wall, but that definitely won't be removed, and we won't be coming anywhere close to that.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you for pointing it out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Please, again, keep in mind, this is going to be reviewed and continued. Is somebody saying something? No? Okay. So you'll have another opportunity, is what I'm getting at, to join in on the conversation. I would encourage people, if you have questions that just pop into your head, feel free to email Chris at planning@freetownma.gov. Reach out to the applicant. Their information is online. Chris can get it to you. Check out the plans online, and just keep informed on what we're doing here. This will probably get continued to the 19th. There's going to be some substantial review on this, so I'm guessing the 19th of January is when this is going to get continued to, unless that is not amenable to the applicant, and in which case then we could push it back further if need be. Do you think you'll be ready for the 19th, or would we be willing to come back on the 19th?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to request a continuance to January 19th.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion that we continue the public hearing for a proposed solar array, CVE North America, located at 12 Forge Road, to January 19th, 6 o'clock via Zoom.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Somebody made the motion. I need a second.
Second.
Just need some, thank you. Motion made, supported, no further discussion. Roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Debbie Robbins. We'll come back to Deb. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Kevin Damaris, aye. Deb, are you back? If not, it's okay. The motion carries. We have enough votes. It's continued to the 19th. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your patience. Good Lord, this is the longest meeting we've had in many years. I feel like Bob Raymond should be here with us.
If we add any more to the 19th, it'll be just as long.
We already
Okay.
did. It's gonna be.
So,
Mr. Chairman, quick
Yes?
question. You tabled our,
Yes, Azu, I was just ready to get back to you. You're a little impatient, my friend.
oh no, I was hearing everybody saying long meeting. I was afraid I was gonna.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying. So, you sent that to Chris. Chris, we have that, right?
Yeah, I forwarded it to all of you.
Okay, so everybody should have the email with the waiver requests. Okay, where am I? Oh, here we go. Okay. And there's only, it would look like 4 of them. So if we'd be so kind to just go over these and we can vote on them so we can move on from this. Is that right? All right, I'll review them. I'll go over them right now. Again, this is the public hearing that we've kept open. This is for the TJA Solar on Chase Road. This is their waiver request form. It says, allow the required bond to be submitted, paid at the time the building permit application is filed for, instead of being submitted, paid with the site plan application and approval. We've done that before. It seems to be, does anybody have a problem with that? Silence, I'm going to accept as a no. Allow the required proof of insurance to be submitted with the building permit application instead of being submitted with the site plan application and approval. Again, that is something that we've allowed before, and no problem? Okay. Section 3, 11.28, allow the site plan scale to be greater than 1 in 40. The current plan shows scales of 1 in 150 on existing conditions plan, proposed solar plan, layout C3, and construction period erosion control plan, sheet C7, and 1 inch equals 50 feet on the grading and drainage plan for the panel array, 1 sheet C4. Given the size and scope of the project, the plans are still legible, and the 1 in 150 scale is appropriate for viewing the entire site. This would allow for a significant reduction in number of plan sheets. Again, it's a large size, so rather than multiple sheets, I do myself find it easier if it's all on one, and it's still readable, legible. So, but our requirements are that it's 1 in 40. Allow for the name, address, and phone number of the project manager. Emergency contact will be provided prior to start of construction. Those are pretty general, generic. I think we've given them almost on, well, quite a few of our current solar projects or existing solar projects. So does anybody from the board take exception to those waiver requests? Well, again, I'm going to take the silence as golden. So if that being said, I'll entertain a motion on granting the waivers.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and supported to grant the waivers as presented via email and as read by the chairman. If there's any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Jim Freites.
Aye.
Deb Robbins. Deb Robbins is incommunicado. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Kevin Damaris. Aye. Okay. Chris, McKay, we've closed the public hearing, correct?
I don't think so, because that's why it had to be tabled to the end of
We
the,
continued the public meeting, okay, I thought we okay. That being said, does somebody want to make the motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion, close the public hearing.
Is there a
Second.
All right, motion made, no further discussion, roll call, Bob?
Yeah, aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Jim Freites,
Aye.
Chris Mello,
Aye.
Kevin Damaris, aye. I'm gonna give Debbie Robbins one last shot. Debbie? No. Okay. All right, Azu, so where does that leave us, buddy? We've got a lot going on tonight, man, and I can tell you, we're getting to hour friggin' 4 now, so,
Yep.
where are we, buddy?
Well, we did get our conservation approval last night. And so with these waivers, I'm not sure when the board would, if the board will then consider approving the project tonight. And then
Okay,
that will kind of wrap it up for us.
all right, where's the board feel? If they feel comfortable, again, after having the engineering review and those minor waivers, the conference meeting, a level of comfort on what we're doing, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the plans, most recent plan set with the approved waivers, and any conditions that have been previously imposed by a vote of the board.
Did we do conditions? I don't remember. It was a year ago. I don't remember if we actually discussed conditions.
I can't remember, so if we hadn't discussed conditions in,
I know
then-
we had a discussion about tree plantings and size, and to the north there was residents that came in that were concerned seeing like the elevations, they were higher, they wanted some tree plantings.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of the conditions being set.
Was that not addressed? Did you not come in and say how you,
No, so, Mr. Joes, that was actually addressed, if you want to look at it. It was actually before COVID. We came in and the neighbors, that was at the town hall, and the neighbors were happy because we proposed a berm plus 12-foot high trees, and they're shown, the details are shown on the plan that you're approving. And then we actually have a black slats to be inserted right through the entire length of that side of the project. So they were pretty happy with that. And then the other condition that you discussed was to make sure that prior to construction, start of construction, that we communicate with our Algonquin Gas and provide you information on our Algonquin Gas's position. Because Algonquin, the utility companies want to see approval. So we were gonna do, so we suggested at the time, the board did not seem to object to that because we can't move forward without that. So as a condition of approval, that we provide you the whatever access agreements that we have with Algonquin. And so that's how we left it. So those were the two items. And then we identified right off of Maurice Way where we're going to store our equipment. So those are the three items that we discussed, and those are reflected on the plans.
Which page of the conditions set that I've labeled? I see construction control sequence, control and sequence. I don't see where they're denoted on the plan. I see on the plan where you have them, but I don't see them actually spelled out in the language on the plan. Or is it a separate filing that I'm not looking at?
What language? What language? What language, Mr. Judge, are you talking about?
Just said, where are you going to put the berm, the height of the berm?
Okay, so that is on the detail sheet. I believe it was C6, sheet C6 through C9.
Plan sheet.
And let me see if I can pick that. And then we
This
should.
is Adam Crane with Environmental Partners. I think you're referring to C8 possibly.
Thanks, Adam.
So it's C8.
There's
Yeah,
an earth
I see it.
berm planting.
Yeah. So on the town's website, it'll come up as the site plan review part 1, if I'm not
I'm on
mistaken,
the
right?
Dropbox
Or part 2.
that
Yeah.
was sent.
Bottom right-hand corner.
Okay. I can't find it, but that's, if it's there, it's there.
Yep.
The plan I have just shows the delineation, but doesn't actually spell it out. I don't have the.
All right, we have it. I am looking at sheet C8, earth berm planting cross-section detail. It shows the height of the berm to be 4 feet with a minimum planting of 8 to 10 planting height, 8 to 10 feet. So not a growth height, but a planting height. And it appears to be loamed, sloped, gradual grade, and loamed and seeded. Adam, if I'm...
Arborvitae, it's a deer-resistant version of an arborvitae. Is that what you're planting? I found it here now.
Yeah, that's what, okay, so you're on the same plan, good.
Azu, is that what you're planting, is a deer-resistant?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And when that neighbor raised it up, I believe, Mr. Chairman, you indicated that the board would include that so that it doesn't get missed in each decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else from the board have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to note there are 2 stormwater conditions that were out there. There's the submittal of the SWIP for construction period,
Yes.
pollution prevention, and the submittal of yearly operation maintenance reports, both of which were committed to in the most recent letter by the zoo.
All right, so they're committed to doing that work, so we can add that to a condition. Azu, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
I think I'll do a vote tonight, but since we do not have an official list of the conditions in narrative form, I'm being consistent, right? I need everybody to read this stuff before we vote on it. So, if there's a comfort level with the board, I'm going to ask for one last thing from both EPG or excuse me, from Azu and is that you provide us with an official list of the proposed conditions and or waivers that we've asked for. And you've given us the waiver list, the condition list that we need to put on there, and we can then sign it that way.
Okay.
All right. So, does anybody else from the board have any other questions or comments?
I'm more than willing to give him conditional approval just on the receipt of those items.
Yep.
If that would make him feel better, and that's amenable to the rest of the board.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd like to go with that. So that being said, we've closed the public hearing. I will entertain a motion that we approve the plans, the most recent plan set, including the waiver request that was just received that we'd already talked and voted on. Additionally, it will be subject to the condition narrative being reviewed and approved, if you will, by the planning board. I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make that conditional approval motion.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Motion made and supported. If there is no further discussion on the motion, I'll take a roll call vote. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Jim Freites.
Aye.
Jim Freites, aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Debbie Robbins. I think she has a problem with her phone.
Yeah, I think she's muted.
Oh, well, all right. We made it this far.
I think she fell asleep.
I don't blame her. Azu, thank you. Appreciate it. Adam, appreciate you sticking around. Your work on these things, it doesn't go unnoticed. Board, I need to get the heck out of here. So
Thank you so much. Have a good.
no, thank you, Azu. Have a great holiday. Be safe. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas all.
Happy holidays.
God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless. So, one last thing to board members, Chris, we're having a little, I hate to say it again, it's been a long time since Mark Rogers left. And so I think we'd like to do some sort of social distancing, just kind of say hi to him, get together kind of thing, just very briefly or whatever. We'll follow up with an email. But tentatively, it looks like a January 7th date would work for most people to say their goodbyes and appreciation for Mark Rogers after as many years serving on the board. So if you could and would be so kind to carve out some time in the early evening to just take the opportunity to thank Mark. If not, and you got something going on, that's great, but the option is there for you. So give me a motion to adjourn, somebody, please. Unless, Chris, there's something earth-shattering.
There are minutes I sent out, but
Yeah, okay, you know what, those
we-
minutes will be there at the next
Yeah.
meeting. They will, I
We're
promise.
not
you.
in jeopardy of having those minutes be too old, are we?
Oh, God,
To
no.
get to read it? Okay.
No, right? It's, right, Chris?
I mean, they're from August, but
August? I thought we approved those last, oh, because somebody wasn't here. I'll entertain a motion to approve, we were ready to approve the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the August meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Was
I
I
need a
there?
sec. Yep, you don't need to be there to vote on it. Can I get a second, please? If not, we're gonna move on.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Bob Joes.
Aye.
Aye, Jim Freites.
Aye.
Aye, Kevin Damaris. Aye, Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye, and Deb Robbins, she's still muted.
She's gone.
yeah, she's gone.
Hello? She's gone now. She's completely fallen off the radar.
Her phone probably died like my earbuds keep dying.
My phone
Yeah.
died. My iPad's got like 10% left.
I have nothing left.
We gotta do something with agendas to, push some people off so we're not doing this it looks like the 19th will do the same thing.
I know.
I agree, but this is a byproduct of the whole Corona thing, and we didn't meet for. Don't forget, we didn't
But
meet
can't
for
we
a couple.
choose instead of putting everybody on the 19th? Can't we say, okay, you're going to be on the 20th, you're going to be on the first meeting in February? Don't we have that?
We can, Bob. But and if we're going to have this conversation, that's
fine.
fine.
To be nice guys, and you try to be a nice guy,
right,
to
but
everybody, make everybody happy. But at some point,
Bob, let's be fair. I think with everybody who's recently applied with this board has the one question: how soon? When can we get engineer review back? When can I get on the agenda?
Oh, yeah.
I was really hoping to get this done before this time, and we try to accommodate. Now, so I will tell you this because I'm thinking the same thing. The only other option is to try to go to weekly meetings for, say, a month or 3 weeks in a row to try to clean up some of this stuff. And once we get beyond that, then we can handle the singular applications or the 2 or 3. You're right; it's an exhaustive. I get headaches just looking at it. But you're right; we try to accommodate everybody. So that's our choice. We either try to get them done in our normal schedule, or we go and schedule increase in meetings. And maybe we do that in the winter because there's not much else going on, and we can clean some of this stuff up. So think about that, and we'll and we'll talk about it. We have to push this off to the 28th or beyond because it's the days between Christmas. So.
Okay.
You're not wrong, Bob. I've thought about this. How do we solve it? So it's either multiple meetings or.
no, I just didn't want to. And
I
you're
agree.
well within your rights to say we should have everybody on all the meetings, but you're also within your right as the chair to say, you know what, you're not going to make the next meeting. You're going to be on the meeting after that, and that's just the way it is.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
There's only so much time in the day, but You know,
I
I
know.
understand the situation you're put in. You're put in the middle of it because people
that
always
was
come to
6,
you and say,
you're
let's
right,
go
we're
as
done.
fast as possible.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so
All
I
right,
know you're,
Bob,
you're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
yeah, Bob, we'll talk about this tomorrow. Give me a call, buddy, when I'm thinking clearly. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if we haven't already done that.
Motion to adjourn. So moved.
So, a second, all right, all in favor, roll call. Bob Joes.
No. Actually, I'll change that to yes.
I was gonna say, you'll get outvoted, by the way. Jim Freites?
Yes.
Chris Mello?
Yes.
Kevin Damaris, yes, and Dave, you might as well holler yes if you're still here too. So, folks, thank you for playing. All right, thank you for playing. Have a great night. A lot of good work was done here tonight, and be safe. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. I'm done. Thanks. Good night. Say good night, Gracie.